Part 214. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2135. But even if I don't necessarily win, I still want to vent my anger. He has plotted against me many times. He can kill me if he has the chance, but if he doesn't have the chance, he has to beat him even if he can beat me. Regarding the black sheep, whether it is said that Jia Yan holds a grudge or that he is preparing for revenge, in short, he must make the black sheep who have repeatedly dealt with him pay the price. This is Jia Yan's code of conduct. Time passed quickly. It took more than a month to arrive. When I returned, because the Edisha was helped by Jia Yan's strength, the speed was much faster, the pressure was relieved a lot, and the time was spent even less. On a certain level, the Edisha can actually help Jia Yan for a long time. Even if he reaches the strength of a domain master and can move freely within 10 dimensions, it does not prevent the Edisha from becoming a kind of assistance and helping him save energy, right? This shows that the future of the Edisha will be with Jia Yan for a long, long time. What's more, even if it can't help him, according to Jia Yan's words, he will find ways to improve it into a planet-like intelligence brain to help him solve more problems. Jia Yan is a nostalgic person, which can be seen from the fact that he has always taken care of his family members in his previous life. For more than a month, the clone that Jia Yan deliberately stayed in the Yin-Yang sect, that is, the Yin-Yang turtle clone, has been receiving a steady stream of information and passing it to his brain at the same time. Because of his battle, the Yin-Yang sect became the co-leader of all the nearby forces at a flying speed. All of this did not require the Yin-Yang sect to say anything to the outside world. The big guys automatically thought so and paid countless tributes. The transaction of resources also tilted towards the Yin-Yang sect. What surprised the outside world was that Yin-Yang himself, who had always wanted planets, did not ask them to pay for any planets after devouring such a huge territory and radiating influence, as if he suddenly changed his temper. In fact, they don't understand. It's not that Jia Yan doesn't want it, it's just because the clone is difficult to operate and his real body has left the local area, so naturally he won't want it again. What's more, the food appearance can't be so ugly, right? In short, these territories now no longer have the galaxy level. In the future, they will be slowly cannibalized by the Yin-Yang section. They are all their own things. Why are you so anxious? Jia Yan actually has many clones. During the journey, Jia Yan not only paid attention to the information about the Yin-Yang clones who came to Yin-Yang sect, but also learned the information about other clones. It's just that the farther away the clone is from him, the weaker the perception ability is. Jia Yan doesn't even have much control over the clone that is far away from the Earth in Orion Arm. However, it was still possible to accept information, so he quickly obtained a lot of information from all aspects. Haha, that silly boy actually made a grandson for me. Jia Yan saw the information from the Earth, and then smiled bitterly. It turns out that his son Jiarong got a wife and gave birth to a grandson. Now he is babbling. He even smiled bitterly. As a grandfather, he didn't know that he had a grandson. But Jia Yan didn't ask his avatar to go out to congratulate him or anything. He was wondering if he should find a chance to go back in person. Of course, the cost of getting back the Orion Arm is so huge that Jia Yan is not willing to waste this time and energy now, so he feels that he should wait until he stabilizes a little bit, or is promoted to the Domain Lord level. It doesn't matter. When this little bit of energy is consumed, return to Earth. I just don't know if things and people on Earth have changed again at that time. After Jia Yan sighed, he turned to several other clones, such as the Great Spirit Realm. In fact, he also had clones left behind, and in some key places, he also had clones, but some of these clones could no longer be contacted. I don't know if he died or what happened. Well, the news delivered by these clones are all very one-sided. There is even a clone who actually gave birth to a certain sanity on his own, and still made a name for himself on that planet. It's really dumbfounding. Jia Yan felt that it was a bit funny after he sensed that a clone, extremely unique, was wandering around on a planet that he dropped casually, and became a world-famous master. But Jia Yan did not take back the unique thinking ability of this clone, because Jia Yan knew that to do all this, he only needed a thought. In the future, even if this clone can reach extremely terrifying levels, unless it exceeds the power of his real body strength, otherwise it would be impossible to resist. But want to surpass the real body? Difficult, too difficult. After all, the real body has serious talents and the unique abilities of so many evolved beasts to help. The clone is just created. There is no talent, not to mention many principles and insights in cultivation. They are just more powerful than ordinary talented people. If you want to counterattack, this possibility is almost non-existent. Hey, are we almost there? Haha, it seems that just sorting out the clone's affairs is a relatively time-consuming task. Jia Yan sensed the outside world and found that after he finished dealing with the clones, he was almost reaching the starry sky where the Zerg Queen and the others were. After all, he was under the enlightenment of promotion strength at the beginning. After dealing with the clone matter, it was only natural that he reached the destination directly. In more than a month, the little grandson has become able to speak a little. It seems that my view of time is completely different from that of ordinary humans on Earth. For me, more than a month has just passed a while. That's all. Jia Yan sighed, even though he already knew that the time of the strong is different from that of the ordinary weak, not to mention that he is still a strong man who is about to step into the strength of the domain master. The existence of this strength, sometimes he can feel it, or heal his injuries. Even after a few years, he is already pretty good. Puff. Outside the subspace, several shadows were slowly flying in the starry sky. Humph, what kind of Zerg Queen force actually provokes us and other forces like this? This war is no longer a small war. A few years have passed, and we roughly know the strength comparison between the two sides. Compared with our overall strength, they are still slightly inferior, especially at the top of the middle-level galaxy. They only have Black Sheep and a few other beings of similar strength. Now these are all at key points on the battlefield, but we have several adults launching attacks in other areas. Although they are not strong, they are the middle-level peak of the galaxy. Sir, but without the same level of resistance, they can easily break through the defense of the Zerg Queen's forces. Humph, this foreign Zerg Queen force seems to have been thinking about evacuating this place recently. They probably didn't think about winning this war. They are just doing everything possible to delay time. It's a pity that we can't keep one or two of the strong ones alive so that they can feel the pain. The owners of these shadows are all extremely terrifying strong men. Each one of them will cause great shock when they go to the starry sky where the Yin-Yang sect is located. But at this moment, each of them had an attitude of being willing to be pawns. After all, it is difficult for elementary beings like them to play the leading role in the current war. Even the mid-level creatures in the galaxy cannot become the protagonist in this war. At least they have to become the strongest in the mid-level galaxy in order to be the protagonist in some battles. Of course, the real protagonist will always be the territory lord from a few major forces, such as the Zerg Queen in the Zerg Queen's force, or the territory lords from the other two forces. There is almost a tripartite relationship here. The Zerg Queen is the strongest and has defeated two of them, but she is also afraid that the two domain lords will join forces to fight her, so she tries her best to prevent this from happening. The other two families are originally adjacent to each other, so it is actually difficult to join forces because they have always been at odds with each other and have been constantly criticizing each other. Therefore, they often seem to be in harmony but seem to be joining forces, but in fact they are actually at odds with each other. Both sides had scruples, and during the period of joining forces, people from the two major forces had a small fight behind their backs. As a result, the entire battlefield became extremely chaotic. But the power of the Zerg Queen is foreign after all, and the people under her management are disobedient. In addition, they have a grab-and-go attitude. The recent situation can be said to be getting worse. In this situation, everyone knows that it's time for the Zerg Queen to pack up and run away. These few beginners in the galaxy who were chatting probably would never believe it. While they were chatting, there was a huge creature deep in the subspace behind them, following them quietly, in a kind of situation. There is no attack, but if you really want to attack, you may be in a situation where several people will be killed in a sneak attack in an instant. This existence is naturally Jiayan. As expected of me now. Although I could quietly follow the first-level powerhouses in the galaxy in the past, the chance of being discovered was very high. But it is different now. None of them is weak, at least one it's easy to defeat 3 or 4 elementary-level galaxies in the peaceful starry sky, but they didn't notice me. Jia Yan was laughing secretly. He has measured his own strength, which is also universal to the outside world. After staying in peace starry sky for a long time, Jia Yan actually doubts whether his strength can adapt to the ordinary world of the central star field of the Milky Way, where geniuses are everywhere and strong people are as numerous as dogs. Now that he looks at it, it's pretty good. It's nothing big. Question. These people are saying that they are engaged in a more intense war with the Zerg Queen's forces. It seems that the Zerg Queen and others have not left yet, but the war has reached a precarious situation. After Jia Yan heard this, he sighed with emotion. Because he also deeply realized that the central star field of the Milky Way is not as easy to mess around as the peace star field he went to. It is better than the Zerg Queen and others. In this starry sky, they are all controlled by the 2 major domain master biological forces. The interception war has been going on for so many years, but it cannot go smoothly. And Jia Yan knew very well that the reason why he was able to have a smooth journey in the Peace Star territory was that, on the one hand, the Peace Star territory was really weak, and he was lucky enough to enter there. The situation opened is much smaller than that of the Zerg Queen and others. After hanging around there for more than 2 years, he only opened up such a small piece of starry sky territory and occupied such a small amount of resources. But look at the Zerg Queen's power. The 2 territory lord level territories were both occupied by people from the Zerg Queen's power. Each one swallowed about 10%, and combined, it was equivalent to 20% of a territory lord level force's territory. Don't underestimate the 20%. The 20% is equivalent to about 30% of the total territory of the Peace Star territory. The resources and interests within it can be said to be more than 100 times greater than the tiny amount of territory occupied by Jia Yan Yin Yang sect. If Jia Yan entered the Peace Star territory and initially wanted to annex the Peace Star territory, Jia Yan could be sure that he would be dead now, because if he really dared to do that, all kinds of monsters would jump out. It is even possible that the Domain Master will emerge. There is indeed no territory lord there in name, but in the central star field of the Milky Way, which territory really has no territory lord? There is no such thing on the surface of the Peace Star territory, but it does not mean that there really is not one behind the scenes. Maybe there is not only one, but also more than one. So Jia Yan is sighing. By the way, there are about 5 primary level galaxies here. These 5 primary level galaxies, if they are going to a certain battlefield for support, then they may be my resistance in the future. After all, I also want to come back. Kindness, then. His murderous intention gradually emerged. It just so happened that Jia Yan also wanted to try his hand to see if the strength of his newly born mid-level peak galaxy would be effective against the galaxy-level experts from the outside world. Or should I say, this is what it feels like to truly test his strength. In the Peace Star territory, facing a one-sided battle with 12 primary level galaxies, for Jia Yan, it was like playing house, without trying anything. Come out. Boom. Just do what he said. Not long after Jia Yan's thoughts came up, there was a brainwave power in the subspace, suddenly sprang up, and stabbed a first-level galaxy powerhouse outside. Ah! That Zinc beginner strongman must also be an extremely powerful Zinc beginner. Unfortunately, he faced an intermediate Zinc peak who made a sneak attack. Moreover, like an old guy, he hid in the subspace and made a sneak attack on Zinc. Intermediate peak. Let's put it this way, if he puts himself in Jia Yan Galaxy's junior level, there is a peak mid-level galaxy guy sneaking up on him in the subspace, and he doubts whether he can escape. Therefore, this seemingly strong junior warrior of the galaxy was suddenly hit by Jia Yan's brainwave power from the front, and the positive and negative forces poured into his body, tearing his body into pieces. Puff. The strong man's body turned into pieces of flesh all over the sky, and then shattered into powder. Jia Yan didn't give him a chance, so this being at the top of the first level of the galaxy simply died. Who? The remaining 4 primary peaks of the galaxy, each one's scalp was numb, and they immediately stared with extreme vigilance at the place where the brainwave power was released. At the same time, they were frantically moving away from the place, taking out their communicators, and seemed to be calling for help. Please remember the first domain name of this book. 4novel.com. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2136. This performance alone is countless times better than those of the first-level powerhouses of the galaxy in the peaceful starry sky. If those beings in the peaceful starry sky were sneak attacked, they would be stunned instantly. Who? Me. As their questions rose, there was a sneer in the subspace in response. At the same time, his attacks continued uninterrupted. Another first-level powerhouse in the galaxy who had reached the edge of the starry sky and was about to turn around and escape was swallowed whole by the twisted space created by Jia Yan. Subspace talent, he is Jia Yan of the Zerg Queen's force. Yes, wasn't it rumored that he was killed by the top mid-level galactic powerhouses from our 2 factions? Why is he still alive? Run away, this guy appears again after 2 years. Even if his strength has not improved at all, he is definitely not something we can stop. The galaxy-level outsiders are also very quick to respond to battlefields and intelligence. Before Jia Yan even launched 2 attacks, the remaining 3 galaxy-level experts realized who he was. Jia Yan's reputation is famous even in this starry sky. As a person who escaped from the hands of the powerful domain lords, Jia Yan saved his life several times from the powerful people at the top of the middle level of the galaxy. Later, it was still on their side, and they got the enemy intelligence secretly, knowing that Jia Yan was going somewhere, so he sent out all the mid-level peak beings in the galaxy that he could, and it seemed that he was forced to die. I don't know how the outside world spread the word about that battle. In short, these first-level powerhouses in the galaxy thought that Jia Yan was dead. But I never expected that this mid-level strongman from the galaxy, who had encountered many sneak attacks by strongmen and was obviously much stronger than beings of the same level, would actually resurrect from the dead and appear here. These strongmen wanted to escape, because they would definitely not be able to defeat Jia Yan, let alone pass on the news that this strongman had reappeared. Buzz buzz. In the surrounding starry sky, a huge mosquito figure gradually appeared. Since Jia Yan's true identity has been revealed, there is no need to hide it. Moreover, Jia Yan does not want to hide his arrival. After all, none of the strong men present can escape from his grasp. If he was still a mid-level star, Jia Yan might not have thought of showing up just in case, because his strength was not enough to completely overwhelm him, so he still needed to be vigilant. But things were different now. He knew that among these elementary-level galaxies outside the space, even if their strength was hidden, it would be impossible for them to escape even if they rose to the intermediate-level galaxies. Because he is the peak of the intermediate galaxy, unless there is a galaxy intermediate peak or a disguised galaxy beginner present, No one can escape. Even if it is an average galaxy intermediate peak, he is not afraid now. Yin yin yin. One front foot stepped out of the subspace, and the first-level powerhouses in the galaxy who saw the outside world were all filled with jealousy and were completely shocked. Naturally, no strong person among them would hide his strength. Everyone knew it, let alone a simple trip, who would hide his strength. So they were just a group of junior warriors from the galaxy, not even a trace of their strength was hidden. Now they finally see that the object of their guess is absolutely correct, it is exactly the person they imagined. Jia Yan. Among the Zerg Queen's forces, she is promoted to be one of the top geniuses. He is even the most powerful genius among the geniuses raised by the Zerg Queen. Jia Yan has been able to escape from several previous sieges, which already proves this. But what the hell, didn't they all say they killed this strong man during the last siege by the middle-level peak beings in the galaxy? Why did he appear again? What a scam. These three first-level stars of the galaxy also wanted to escape, but as that person's figure gradually flew out of the subspace, the space around them seemed to be locked and solidified, making it completely impossible for them to leave. He can move, but his speed is not fast. This is already a huge gap in levels, resulting in crushing. Star, galaxy, intermediate peak. Suddenly, a junior powerhouse from the galaxy spoke with great difficulty. That's right, the peak of the intermediate galaxy. The giant mosquito's feet stepped out of the subspace, followed by its body, and then its long tail, and hind legs. The huge giant mosquito has almost no change from before, but the ferocity and terrifying strength revealed in his body are completely different. However, none of the Zing-level beings present had known Jia Yan before. After all, for the enemy's forces, there were simply countless Zing-level beings, and there were even more powerful ones at the beginning level. It was impossible for anyone to everyone has met Jia Yan. Jia Yan was not that active back then. Sure enough, it's the peak of the middle level of galaxy. This. The other two junior strongmen were instantly filled with despair and looked at each other in bewilderment. According to rumors, that Jia Yan was not attacked by a group of mid-level peak powerhouses from the galaxy, and then seriously injured. He might even have died deep in the subspace. Even if he doesn't die, he is destined to be trapped by injuries. In the next life, it is a great blessing not to say that his strength improves, but does not regress. But why, just in the past 2 years, has his strength skyrocketed again, reaching the pinnacle of galaxy intermediate level? It is said that Jia Yan at that time had just been promoted to the middle level of galaxy. Now, even if he is not injured, it will be difficult for him to reach the top of intermediate level of galaxy in 2 years. Of course, that's just a general situation. Now that Jia Yan has been promoted successfully, the only explanation is he is really, as rumored by the outside world, a talented person in the Zerg Queen's force, and it seems that his talent is even more powerful than the rumors. Your Excellency Jia Yan, if we said that as long as you are willing to let us go, we will withdraw from this war, would you believe it? A junior powerhouse from the galaxy said this to Jia Yan bitterly. Facing Jia Yan's gaze as if he was looking at an idiot, he shook his head sadly. Forget it, senior, please be more quick when you take action. Puff. Before he finished speaking, the junior powerhouse felt a black light flash in front of his eyes. He quickly took half a step back in shock, but he still couldn't avoid it. In an instant, his whole person fell into eternal darkness. It turned out that at some point, Jia Yan's foot had already stabbed in front of his eyes like flying, stabbing the guy right through. As you wish. Jia Yan's calm voice sounded just now. It turns out that the other party asked for a quick death, and Jia Yan could not let them go, but this request was still possible. Senior, we also have this request, but it is impossible not to resist. The remaining two primary powerhouses of the galaxy stood above the starry sky, facing Jia Yan, with a show of generously willing to die. This performance alone shows that they are completely different from the galaxy beginners in the Peace Star territory. Jia Yan calmly pulled out the foot that pierced the body of the strong man who wanted to die. At the same time, he recognized the strength of the strong man from the outside. The blow just now, even though it was within the Peace Star territory, was definitely he used the same move to kill the 12 first-level strongmen of the galaxy, killing him with one move. But in fact, the opponent took half a step back, and the power Jia Yan used was not meant to deal with the 10 first-level strongmen of the galaxy in the peaceful starry sky level, but much stronger. This shows that the primary level of the galaxy in the outside world is at least twice as strong as the one in the peace starry sky. You must know that everyone is at the galaxy level, which shows how weak the galaxy level in the peace starry field is. You are all very good. Jia Yan's eyes were as bright as a torch, and he turned to look at the two galaxy-level powerhouses who were ready to resist to the death. But even if you agree with them, the outcome will not change. Not too long passed, and the hustle and bustle in this land of stars soon stopped. A giant mosquito sneaked into the subspace silently, and then slowly left the place. Judging from the battle with this group of primary warriors of the galaxy, this place is not far from where they fought against the Zerg Queen's forces, but it is still considered an area behind enemy lines, especially not far from the enemy's front line, which shows that there are still powerful people. If he doesn't leave and someone from the middle level of the galaxy comes, Jia Yan will feel a little troubled. The most terrifying thing is of course that the domain lord of this family happens to be here to supervise the battle in person. If he comes, Jia Yan will definitely escape in a panic. So this return is a bit anticlimactic. So it's better to just grab something cheap and run away. Today is the 3rd anniversary of the war between the Zerg Queen's forces and the two enemy domain masters. In 3 years, the Zerg Queen's power rose, then gradually stabilized, and then turned into a confrontation with two enemy armies. The battle situation gradually evolved into a normal state. Every strong person in the entire Zerg Queen's power, they have all experienced hundreds of battles. Even some galactic-level warriors did not have much war experience before coming to the central star field of the Milky Way. But now, as long as they survive, they have become extremely war experienced. Strongmen. If you really want to talk about this level of battle experience, Jia Yan may not have as much experience as them. However, Jia Yan wins because he has many experiences of the weak defeating the strong and escaping his life at the hands of domain lords and other beings. There is a natural gap in level between the two sides. Haha, luckily you came early, otherwise I would have lost. It's nothing, it's just that this position is difficult to survive. It seems that the person who fought this front last time and pocketed the commercial star in the rear was the Jia Yan 2 years ago, right? It's a pity. If Izumi knows, it will definitely be very depressing to know that the planet you finally conquered can only be handed over to others. Well, who says it isn't? But this is an inevitable thing after the Great Retreat. After a while, the entire foundation we have laid will have to be returned to them. But speaking of Jia Yan, have you heard that that commercial star part of Star's property belongs to him? Logically speaking, the news of Jia Yan's death has been reported to the outside world. The things on commercial star should be divided up by those of us who are new guards. But the Queen, Your Excellency, you want to think that Jia Yan is not dead and let us keep his part first, how ridiculous. Is this so? I really don't know, but I guess if Jia Yan hasn't come back when we retreat, those things will belong to us. Her Majesty the Queen is not the kind of person who covets our small resources. That's inevitable. On this day, on the battlefield in front of a certain commercial star, two existences of the first level of the galaxy were having a conversation. The two of them must have just fought a big battle, and they were scarred. But they didn't care at all, as if they were already used to such injuries. As they chatted, they talked about Jia Yan. But as they chatted, the faces of the two first-level powerhouses in the galaxy became solemn, and they both looked towards the subspace. Who? Which friend is here? Both of them were very solemn, because they felt that there was an energy inside the subspace, which was deliberately revealed to them. The total amount of this ability, just leaked now, already exceeds theirs. It seems to be the middle level of galaxy. How can they not be solemn like this? But after all, they are people who have been fighting for many years in the starry sky. Over the years, due to the scarcity of powerful people in the Zerg Queen's force, these two people usually have many opportunities to deal with the powerful people in the middle level of the galaxy. Of course, it is not the peaceful kind. To deal with it, they have even had the experience of facing off against the mid-level powerhouses of the galaxy for 1 or 2 moves. Even though they were scarred and even life-threatening each time, it was all because of the timely support from our mid-level powerhouses from the galaxy. And was saved. Therefore, when facing a mid-level star from the galaxy, they are not as panicked as their enemies or other primary level powerhouses from the galaxy. But if it's an enemy, they were a little frightened in their hearts, because if they were enemies, there would be no galaxy intermediate around them, and perhaps this would be their time of death. But even if they die, they will die standing up. Every strong person in the Zerg Queen's force has such a will to die, otherwise they would have been defeated long ago. To the local strong men and forces, the Zerg Queen and her group are like bandits who run around and commit crimes. Their strength is that they are not afraid of death and dare to do anything. Therefore, the people in the entire force have already become what they are today in 3 years. Otherwise, they would not be able to survive. Haha, you two were talking about me just now, but now you don't recognize me. The creature that came quietly inside the subspace was naturally Jia Yan himself. Although Jia Yan mainly came back to fight the Black Sheep and seek justice, in fact, he was also preparing to help the Queen of the Zerg a little. In addition, this is the business star he built, and he would appear when he passed by on the way back. There is another more important reason, that is, he is going to find out what the Black Sheep's current strength is. Without understanding the other party's strength, he rashly went to find trouble with the Black Sheep. If he went to the energy circle of the Zerg Queen's power and found that the Black Sheep was already a territory lord, he would have no place to cry. Ah! You are subspace talent, the person we just talked about, is really you. The 2 junior galactic powerhouses belonging to the Zerg Queen's force exclaimed in unison. Jia Yan. Please remember the first domain name of this book. 4novel.com. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2137. I see, the Queen is fine, and Black Sheep hasn't been promoted to Territory Lord yet. Okay, I won't disturb you two from your official duties. Jia Yan will leave now. Thank you for your information. Puff. Inside the subspace, a voice sounded calmly. The Nota giant mosquito who had just been chatting with the 2 galaxy-level beings disappeared without a trace in a moment. He just left like this. It doesn't matter if I leave, I always feel a lot of pressure when facing him. I don't know if it's a psychological problem or a problem with his ability to be promoted again. By the way, although he was deliberately downplaying this feeling just now, I always felt that he was very concerned when he heard the news about Black Sheep. Hush, this Jia Yan and Black Sheep are extremely difficult to deal with. There have been rumors that the two were at odds and even started fighting. Now he actually cares about whether Black Sheep is promoted. Presumably, there will be people in the energy circle in the future. Something interesting happened. Then should we send back the information about Jia Yan's arrival? Let's spread it. If we don't spread this kind of thing, others will spread it. And if he dares to show up, he won't be afraid of anything. Not long after, the former commercial star front, which was the front where Jia Yan once stationed, conveyed a message. Jia Yan, a subspace genius who was originally thought to have died, actually appeared again and was already heading towards the place where the energy circle was. Before people had time to digest this news, another piece of news also came from behind enemy lines. That was a support team of galactic warriors from the Domain Lord creatures. In their own territory, they originally moved the terrain and prepared to go to another place to support the front. Unexpectedly, they were intercepted halfway by the mysterious subspace talent. It is very likely that this creature is a person. These two pieces of news were known to outsiders together. When combined with the time, everyone knew that the strong man who intercepted and killed was clearly Jia Yan. As soon as Jia Yan appeared and returned, he made great contributions, and looking at his calm look, all living creatures quickly understood that this guy had definitely improved in strength. So, his current strength will be the peak of the galaxy intermediate level. No, most of the powerful people definitely don't believe this, because they think that Jia Yan can't progress so fast. The only explanation is that he has reached the near peak of the middle level of galaxy, and then adds his subspace talent. The strength has improved, and it makes sense to ignore the threat of the black sheep. It is a pity that if only the middle level of galaxy is approaching its peak, then the good show that everyone is looking forward to will not be possible. After all, the strength gap is too big. Jia Yan's return is at best a bold one, but he still needs the Queen's protection. There may not be a need for black sheep calculations. But what is he doing back? Even if everyone is not on good terms with Jia Yan, after so many years, everyone knows who did what happened back then, and they all know it clearly. As the person involved, Jia Yan is not stupid. He must know better who did this. But under such circumstances, his strength is not as high as the black sheep, so he dares to come back. It's almost like seeking death. Black sheep will definitely find a reason to push Jia Yan to a dead end again. With Jia Yan's return, news about him began to spread to the outside world. The Territory Lord force that destroyed the galaxy-level team realized who was responsible for the murder, and spoke out that they would kill Jia Yan and avenge this team. It's just that they were the force that attacked Jia Yan's team of peak mid-level warriors that day. Even if they didn't cause trouble for Jia Yan was destined to cause trouble for them. To me, it's nothing. The other onlookers on the other side had a bit of a weird attitude. Jia Yan, a powerful member of the Zerg Queen's force, has been rumored around here for a while because of his unique talents, especially his great achievements, such as escaping from the Domain Master's personal attack. There are also rumors that he in the starry sky farther away, he even escaped the pursuit of the Domain Lord creatures several times. These things are all interesting to talk about, but the big guy was quite depressed before. Why did such a creature die? Now that he appears again, the creatures in the surrounding forces are all as if they have discovered some topic. They have nothing to do with it and are just waiting for this guy to return and see if he will make some new news. Jia Yan? You are indeed back. Good guy. I heard that there were at least 3 or 4 mid-level galactic warriors who besieged you that day. You are actually able to survive this. It's amazing. One day, 3 or 4 days after the information was transmitted back to the Zerg Queen's energy circle, a huge mosquito-like creature stepped out of the normal starry sky from subspace, immediately attracting the attention of the galaxy-level powerhouses who were on alert all around. Then they gathered around one by one. When they knew it was Jia Yan, they all showed great interest. Haha, thank you for your attention. As for how I escaped and where I went, I will tell you slowly when I have time in the future. Now I go to see Her Majesty the Queen. Jia Yan smiled slightly, then pushed away all the creatures and entered the energy circle. It still tastes like this, and everything is very similar to the feeling of nostalgia. Within the energy circle, the Zerg Queen tries her best to simulate the feeling of her home. Although the Orion arm where Jia Yan is located is still different from the Zerg Queen's energy, compared with the energy-rich central star field of the Milky Way, this smell still makes Jia Yan feel more familiar and nostalgic. Jia Yan, are you back? Come in. When Jia Yan was still missing the things in this energy circle, especially when he spent some energy looking for his own decorated planet, the voice of the Zerg Queen rang in his ears. Well, okay, I'll be right over. Jia Yan's expression condensed and he no longer looked for his decoration planet. Anyway, he knew deep in his heart that this planet would definitely not be saved. Not long after, Jia Yan flew into the huge hall in the center of the energy circle. In the main hall, the Zerg Queen still looked like a human female with a head, but her body was completely insect-like. At the point where Jia Yan is now, when he looks at Domain Lord creatures, he no longer just knows how powerful they are, but can gradually see the gap between the two sides, and also knows the scope of their strength and energy. Even though there is still a huge gap, it is already a step closer. Oh! When the Zerg Queen saw Jia Yan, she was slightly startled, as if she had already seen his improvement in strength. But she is not happy, because this shows that Jia Yan, a strong man, has improved his strength and will have a fierce battle with his capable man, Black Sheep. Although the truth is on Jia Yan's side, Black Sheep is her indispensable general now, and he is also very capable of management. Jia Yan, even if his combat effectiveness has improved, he doesn't know how to command. So the Zerg Queen looked a little unhappy. Meet Her Majesty the Queen. Well, Jia Yan, you have been out for a few years this time, so you must have been seriously injured. Indeed, I was ambushed and attacked that day and almost died. Fortunately, I still have the secret method to save my life. As long as you are alive, now I see that your strength has not only prevented the film crew from being seriously injured, but has even gone one step further. Let's do this, Jia Yan, if you are willing, I will let you command an important place. After a while, you can go any further. We will retreat together, and you will be considered a great success then. The Queen of the Zerg has already considered him and is not prepared to keep Jia Yan in the energy circle. These are all matters for the future. Your Majesty, Jia Yan has another unkind invitation today. Jia Yan suddenly let the Zerg Queen's words get stuck in his throat. Then, he stood up and looked at the outside of the hall calmly. There is a planet in the outside world. This planet is very close to the main hall, which shows that the people living on it are astonishing in strength and status. They are almost as big as the Queen of the Zerg. He is the Black Sheep. The Black Sheep at this moment is most likely preparing for a breakthrough. The energy is constantly flying, but there is no sign of a breakthrough. Obviously, Domain Lord level strength is not something that can be easily broken through. Judging from the sense of breakthrough of other creatures, Jia Yan feels that even if Black Sheep is given this kind of brewing feeling for 3 years, there may not necessarily be a moment of breakthrough opportunity. Arrival. Jia Yan couldn't wait 3 years, not to mention that Black Sheep really found an opportunity to break through at that moment and broke through to the territory lord level. Then Jia Yan was a little depressed, so he spoke directly immediately. It's like he doesn't give face to the Zerg Queen, and he really doesn't want to give face to the Zerg Queen. After all, when Black Sheep plotted against him, the Zerg Queen must have known something about it, but she didn't stop it. This is also a kind of problem for Jia Yan. Vent your dissatisfaction with her. Jia Yan, if you dare not listen to the Queen's words, you are disrespecting the Queen. When Jia Yan said that he still had a merciless request, the crowd around him was frightened for a while, because they seemed to be able to imagine what Jia Yan wanted to say. So a mid-level creature from the galaxy, who was also very close to Black Sheep, jumped out, pointed at Jia Yan and shouted, "Oh! Your Excellency, I didn't say that I don't take Her Majesty the Queen seriously, but you. When I was talking to Her Majesty the Queen, when did I ask you to interrupt? Could it be that I don't take Her Majesty the Queen seriously? Is it you? Jia Yan sneered and looked at the mid-level creature coldly. A brainwave power suppression that only the top mid-level powerhouse in the galaxy could possess was fiercely transmitted from Jia Yan's body, suppressing the body of the mid-level powerhouse in the galaxy. The mid-level galaxy existence was shocked. Then all the galaxy-level powerhouses who were listening to the conversation between Jia Yan and the Zerg Queen were all shocked. Because they also felt that the power Jia Yan released was the power that reached the peak of the middle level of the galaxy. You actually. The middle-level Zhuo strongman had an extremely ugly face, but under Jia Yan's gaze, he was speechless. He is also a mid-level galaxy existence. In fact, he is not suppressed so severely by Jia Yan using his brainwave power. It is just that he is not a die-hard subordinate of Black Sheep due to his strength. If he falls out with Jia Yan because of Black Sheep, he also felt that it was inappropriate. After all, the brainwave power released by Jia Yan had reached the same peak as Black Sheep's intermediate galaxy. Alright. Suddenly, a burst of earth-shaking terrifying power, even if it was not released with full force, or rather, just as gently as a breeze, swept through the brainwave power released by Jia Yan, and actually made Jia Yan suppress all the galaxy-level people present. The brainwave power disappeared without a trace in an instant. Jia Yan was slightly startled, and then he sensed that it was the Zerg Queen who was releasing this power. Not only was he surprised by the existence of the Territory Lord, or the terrifying strength of the Zerg Queen, he quickly restrained his brainwave power. He just wanted to quarrel with the Black Sheep, but he didn't want to quarrel with the Zerg Queen. Even though Jia Yan, who had just been promoted for a short time, had an inflated self-confidence, he was still an affirmative with the Territory Lord. Against a relatively powerful being among the Territory Lords, he is more or less a fool. You all, stop arguing. Come on, Jia Yan, tell me. Are you planning to make any unkind request? After the Queen of the Zerg saw Jia Yan's peak mid-level galaxy strength, she had already made some vague guesses and asked, but she shouldn't be too partial to the Black Sheep, not to mention that if there was a fight, she might not know who would save her life. So she still wanted to hear what Jia Yan had to say. His Majesty. Jia Yan paused for a moment, then slowly said his purpose. You are not talented, because I had some friction with Commander Black Sheep before. Now I feel that if these frictions are not resolved, it will be impossible to work quietly under the Queen, so I am bold and want to compete with Commander Black Sheep. Regardless of the competition, regardless of the outcome, I will not pursue it any further. Jia Yan spoke sincerely. That's really what he thought. Because of his current strength, if he cannot defeat Black Sheep in the first battle, it will be difficult for him to catch up with Black Sheep for a long time. Even if he succeeds in being promoted to Territory Lord, Jia Yan will have to choose to escape from the Zerg Queen. Power, because by then, even the Zerg Queen will have difficulty restricting the Black Sheep to a certain extent, and killing herself will be just for fun. Oh? You want to challenge Black Sheep, are you sure? He has already reached the pinnacle of the intermediate galaxy. Even if you are also the pinnacle of the intermediate galaxy, there may still be a big gap in strength. The Zerg Queen sighed. Although she had roughly guessed what Jia Yan wanted to ask for, she felt very unhappy when Jia Yan actually said it. They are all my subordinates, why not play intrigues, do things well for myself, and then I will lead everyone to become more powerful masters, isn't it good? But then again, it seems that all this was started by the Black Sheep. If he hadn't plotted against Jia Yan and even almost killed Jia Yan, would Jia Yan, who had improved his strength today, cause trouble for him? Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2138. If there are no problems between the two parties, will Jia Yan, who has been promoted to the top of the middle level of galaxy so quickly, become another right-hand man of his? The Zerg Queen felt upset for a while, then nodded helplessly. Jia Yan, I understand that you want to vent, so I will give you a chance, but I have agreed beforehand that neither you nor Black Sheep can kill each other, at least in front of me. Arrived, do you understand? Learn. Jia Yan nodded. If the Zerg Queen had not given such a response, he might not have dared to fight the Black Sheep so directly. After all, even he can see that even though he has been promoted to the peak of the intermediate galaxy, there is still a certain gap compared to the Black Sheep who was already at the peak of the intermediate galaxy and is now attacking the existence of the Territory Lord. Not to mention discerning people, they must think that they are looking for death. Even the Queen of the Zerg said this probably mostly because she was trying to help herself. If Black Sheep wants to kill him in the future, then the Zerg Queen will definitely take action. She was expressing her stance to a certain extent, and also to make up for her debt to Jia Yan. Not long after, Jia Yan flew out of the palace, followed by a group of galaxy-level powerhouses, as well as the most terrifying being in the room, the Queen of the Zerg herself. Two powerful men at the top of the middle level of the galaxy were fighting against each other. Even she had to take action, otherwise it would be difficult to control everything from a long distance. This is already a level below the Territory Lord, and Black Sheep is still one of the strongest among his subordinates who are at the top of the mid-level galaxy. Therefore, she had to use a certain amount of strength to dare to control the entire battle. Coax. When everyone behind him appeared in the starry sky, Jia Yan released his brainwave power towards the beautiful planet next to the palace. His strength was earth-shattering. In an instant, people understood that the cultivation of brainwave power has reached the level of the peak of the middle level of the galaxy. Some of the first-level powerhouses of the galaxy who had not seen clearly why Jia Yan dared to challenge Black Sheep just now realized with great shock that how could they dare to take on the porcelain work without Diamond. It turns out that Jia Yan has also reached the peak of the intermediate level of the galaxy, at least in terms of rough level, he is on the same level as Black Sheep, so he dares to challenge him. Although most people are still not optimistic about Jia Yan's chances of winning, this does not prevent everyone from being shocked. Because under their gaze, Jia Yan has grown from the elementary level of zinc to where he is now. How many years have passed? It turned out that they had only seen such a growth rate in the Zerg Queen, but they did not expect to see another person today. Jia Yan released his brainwave power not to show off, but to use his brainwave power to send a message to the Black Sheep in cultivation. If it weren't for such a provocative message, it would probably be at a critical moment in cultivation. No one will leave the mountain easily. At this moment, Black Sheep is naturally making attempts at the Territory Lord level in his home planet. In the past 2 years, his power has become more and more powerful. Originally, within the Zerg Queen's power, he had 2 opponents with almost the same strength. However, in the past 2 years, his strength has gradually surpassed the 2, showing that he has domain. After receiving the power of the Lord, his status was superior to the 2. There was a small stumbling block before, that is, Jia Yan, the person who made him unhappy, but he used some small tricks to kill Jia Yan immediately. In order to repay this favor, there have been several people in the past few years. He should have fought, but he chose to use the excuse of training not to participate in the war. As a result, the resources that the Zerg Queen's forces could now obtain were much less than expected. Of course, he still has no idea of breaking up with the Zerg Queen, and he doesn't even have the slightest idea of breaking away from the Zerg Queen's power in the future. This force will be his power in the future, because he plans to attack the Zerg Queen after being promoted to the strength of the Territory Lord. Start the pursuit. Presumably the Zerg Queen would also agree. After all, the stronger the strength, the harder it is to meet a partner. The Zerg Queen also has a good impression of herself. If her strength catches up, she should also agree to this matter. Black Sheep's abacus was very good, so he was ready to practice well and advance to the Domain Lord level in this or the next breakthrough. As long as he reaches the Territory Lord, he will truly be among the top beings in the entire galaxy. After all, further up, there are the high-level beings of the galaxy where the dragon has never seen its head and tail, and the legendary peak powerhouses of the galaxy. Well, without them showing up, the Territory Lord is almost the most powerful person in the entire galaxy. Coupled with the help of the Zerg Queen, the road to the more difficult high-level galaxy in the future will surely be smoother. Huh? What kind of power is this? Suddenly, Black Sheep, who was wandering around the world while practicing, felt an extremely arrogant strength thrust toward the planet where he was practicing. This is no longer a temptation, it's like an attack. If he happens to be at the most critical moment of cultivation, he may suffer backlash. Who? At this moment, Black Sheep, who was dreaming of becoming the top powerhouse in the universe, became furious. Who dares to take action against his majestic Black Sheep, not to mention that this place is still within the power of the Zerg Queen, which is simply intolerable. For a moment, Black Sheep, who was still in a confused state of cultivation, lost his judgment and rushed out of the planet where he was. After he flew out of his own planet and saw the person who released energy to stimulate him not far outside the planet, and then saw the Queen of the Zerg further away, as well as many galaxy-level powerhouses, the somewhat chaotic emotions subsided in an instant. He knew something was a little weird. Taking a closer look at the person who provoked him, he shrank his eyes, and his Black Sheep eyes showed a hint of disbelief. Jia Yan. Yes, Master Black Sheep, it's me, Jia Yan. What's the matter? Your master is so surprised. Could it be that he is a little disappointed that I'm not dead? Jia Yan smiled lightly and responded to the black giant sheep. At this moment, Jia Yan felt that he did not hate this giant black sheep-shaped monster to the core of his heart, because in the process of growing up, he encountered too many similar existences, and there were many things he did. Things like this affect his emotions more than Black Sheep. Now that he really sees him, Jia Yan just wants to challenge him. Of course, if there is a chance, Jia Yan will not miss the opportunity to kill him, but it will be very, very difficult today, because the Queen of the Zerg deliberately came to him and Black Sheep to prevent this. No, Jia Yan, we are naturally happy that you can survive so many enemy galaxy mid-level enemies. Then, what do you want to do when you go outside my planet and interrupt my practice? You are not just here to release me. Brainwave power, you claim to me that you came back alive, right? Black Sheep calmed down his emotions deeply, and then asked Jia Yan calmly, as if nothing had happened. Of course not, Lord Black Sheep, I just thought of some things in the past and felt that my strength happened to be at the same level as you at this time. I want to find a suitable training partner, and you are the best candidate. I don't know, Lord Black Sheep, are you interested in having a sparring session with me? Jia Yan didn't speak out directly, because since it wasn't a life and death battle, he had to be more flexible with his words. It wouldn't be too late to say harsh words when he broke out in the future. Oh? Jia Yan, you have also been promoted to the top of the intermediate galaxy. Hearing that Jia Yan asked him to compete with him, Black Sheep's expression was slightly shocked. After carefully looking at Jia Yan's brainwave power, he was afraid again. Incomparably, but even if you succeed in promotion, will you challenge me directly? Or don't you consider the other two? You have to know that I am already cultivating and preparing to be promoted to Domain Lord. If something happens to fail, you might get injured. He also quite understood that he could not kill Jia Yan when the Queen of the Zerg came in person, so he just said it was an injury. If the Zerg Queen had to take care of their injuries, then there would be no discussion. It was even possible that the Zerg Queen would not take action until there was a life-threatening attack. Cutting off hands and feet is a common thing in sparring, which can delay the guy who dares to challenge himself for several years, and even prevent him from making any progress in his life. Black Sheep still doesn't know why Jia Yan is alive, but there are just a few possibilities. Every strong man present has had similar opportunities or dangerous battles, so he doesn't pursue anything. For a being who has a lot of experience fighting in the outside world, he does not look into the past, but only talks about the current situation. Jia Yan is alive, and with great luck, he has reached the peak of the intermediate galaxy and caught up with Black Sheep. This is the result. Your Excellency Black Sheep, please stop saying such things. Are strong men like us who lick blood from the edge of a knife to earn a living afraid of injuries and dangers? If we are afraid, we will not follow the Queen to the central star field of the Milky Way. Jia Yan shook his head, especially these words also brought out other strong men, making the other strong men around him look at Jia Yan with a touch of friendliness in their eyes. Of course, such a little verbal praise cannot make them directly erase their loyalty or fear of Black Sheep. It was because no one was willing to help Jia Yan that he became a bit marginalized. Now since Jia Yan did not show the strength to fight against Black Sheep, no one dared to express any positive impression of Jia Yan openly. Very well, now that you say so, it won't be interesting if I refuse again. Black Sheep nodded and slowly flew out from the edge of the planet, arriving at a land surrounded by empty starry sky. Jia Yan also walked forward slowly. Both sides are veterans who are used to fighting. They don't need to say too many words, and they don't even need to worry about the Zerg Queen's approval. After all, the Zerg Queen will follow behind Jia Yan, so she knows that she must agree with this battle. Black Sheep silently observed the giant mosquito creature that came to him. Jia Yan, he suddenly said, actually, it's very surprising to me that you can grow to this point. Because at the beginning, although you were a genius with good talents, you joined the Zerg Queen's forces to cooperate, and you also created something with the Queen. There must be a conflict of ideas, so I don't have a good impression of you. I didn't expect that you really managed to reach the top of the intermediate galaxy in a short time. On this point, I still admire you very much. Black Sheep has something to say. If he didn't even have this kind of charisma, there wouldn't be that many people following him. Of course, when it comes to personality charm, Jia Yan is actually not that bad. I also admire Her Majesty Black Sheep. We both know that within the power of the Zerg Queen, it is impossible for Her Majesty to cover everything. Among all the others, you are probably the one who has contributed the most. Over the years, you have helped the Queen a lot, which means you have helped us a lot in disguise. In addition, I also admire your strength very much. Jia Yan said calmly. Well, let's get started. Black Sheep accepted Jia Yan's words, nodded, and was ready for war. Jia Yan also made good moves. There is actually a gap in size between the two. Black Sheep is nearly 50 kilometers long, while Jia Yan is 30 kilometers long. In terms of body shape, he is overwhelmed by the other one. Looking for the book and the size of insects. The weight is not big. Black Sheep's weight is probably more than 10 times that of Jia Yan. Although the Starry Sky warriors don't pay much attention to body shape, if the difference is too big, it also shows that there will be some basic strength. Huge difference. Therefore, the galaxy-level powerhouses retreating around him all concluded that Jia Yan had no advantage at all in this battle. Lord Jia Yan, you should choose to enter the subspace as soon as possible. I think so too, because Master Jia Yan's advantage is the subspace. If he doesn't enter the subspace, he will be easily caught by Master Black Sheep. Lord Black Sheep's innate strength contains electricity. Once the force field is locked, even if he is a being of the same level, it will take a lot of effort to escape. In the competition within our forces, he used this trick, defeated the other two peak mid-level stars of the galaxy, and reached his current status. Jia Yan must not be able to escape. A group of creatures are discussing. At this time, Black Sheep slowly turned his gaze to the Zerg Queen. His eyes were a little unhappy, but he still said respectfully, "Please give the Queen's consent for the discussion." "I agree." The Zerg Queen nodded. Buzz. After a moment, both sides started to move. Jia Yan unexpectedly did not enter the subspace immediately. Instead, he unexpectedly took a step forward within the normal space. Black Sheep, on the other hand, surged forward with electricity all over his body. In addition to his talent for electricity, he also has a feared talent, which is the talent to control gravity. The combination of two talents is one of the reasons why Black Sheep has always been so strong and has such terrifying combat power. Please remember the first domain name of this book. 4novel.com. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2139. At this moment, Black Sheep used his dual talents. In one step, electric light filled Jia Yan's body, and there was also a heavy gravity that suddenly hit Jia Yan's body. Groan. There is suffocating energy permeating the entire world. The two abilities used by Black Sheep are terrifying and powerful, which makes people very frightened. Especially when the two natural abilities are used together, this shows that he respects and values his opponents. But what about Jia Yan? In fact, Jia Yan is not too far behind him. He used his newly figured out subspace usage and the strongest yin and yang dao. The opponent has two kinds of talents, and Jia Yan has subdimensional and unique yin and yang dao. It's hard to say who is stronger and who is weaker. This is a war between two great geniuses. Boom. Jia Yan stabbed the horns of the Black Sheep that exploded with lightning, creating an earth-shattering momentum. Compared with the opponent's electric explosion, his feet seemed to have entered a twisted space. At the same time as the explosion, most of the feet except for the most tip part were not in the normal space. The explosion was not as powerful. None of them are affected. Then, the positive and negative power of his yin and yang dao was used instantly. The tip of his toes seemed to detonate some kind of bomb. In an instant, the explosive power caused by the positive and negative power of brain waves was like igniting a nuclear bomb. There was an explosion at the same time as the collision. This is equivalent to Jia Yan having two levels of talent, which is no worse than Black Sheep, a strong player with dual talents. Even stronger. Because Onmyedo is a pure power-based ability. Puff puff. Jia Yanshen's explosive power in the yin and yang dao was domineering, but Black Sheep's background was stronger. The two sides actually fought to a tie at the first moment, and both fell back 10 kilometers. Black Sheep stared at Jia Yan in front of him with a slightly changed expression for a moment. To be honest, even though he already knew that Jia Yan had been promoted to the top of the intermediate galaxy, he still looked down on Jia Yan. Even if this guy came to challenge him, he thought that he should be able to defeat Jia Yan within a few moves. Black Sheep believes that this is the reason why Jia Yan fights him in front of the Zerg Queen. Otherwise, if he is sure, he should ambush somewhere and wait for a sneak attack when he goes out. Unexpectedly, with this test attack, he could see that even if Jia Yan was still far behind him, he wouldn't be too far behind him. At least he was a strong man who needed all his energy to deal with it. In other words, no matter how weak Jia Yan is, he is at least as strong as the other two mid-level peak powerhouses in the Zerg Queen's force. What the hell? It's only been 2 years, and the news of Jia Yan's death is still in my ears. But after his return, has he caught up with the strength of the other two mid-level peak giants in the galaxy? Moreover, Black Sheep feels that Jia Yan may have other strengths that he has not yet demonstrated. In other words, Jia Yan's strength may be more than the strength of the two giants. Maybe he can catch up with himself? Impossible. The Black Sheep's expression was extremely ugly, and he said no more. Instead, he flew in front of Jia Yan's eyes. The electric light at the corner exploded again, and an electric spark shot towards Jia Yan's location. Jia Yan retreated 5 kilometers, and his entire body entered the subspace. The electric light chased into the subspace, and was faster than Jia Yan. At the same time, the shallow gravity of the subspace suddenly appeared from zero to nothing, turning a large area of distorted subspace into chaos. Jia Yan felt the changes inside the subspace. His expression remained unchanged, but because the move came quickly and strangely, he could only stretch out his feet and block the opponent's attack. Puff. Jia Yan only felt that his entire feet were numb for a moment, and then he retreated into the second and third levels of space. The shallow subspace is no longer a big barrier for mid-level peak powerhouses like us in the galaxy, so I hide in the subspace of 1 or 2 degrees. It is of no use at all. On the contrary, I will be tied up. Jia Yan retreated into the third dimension, and the outside world's perception of him became blurred. Only then did he avoid the remaining lightning and gravity effects from Black Sheep. Humph, subspace talent, you have a talent like a mouse, do you want to defeat me? After seeing Jia Yan's moves, Black Sheep hid in the subspace, showing a trace of disdain. Yes, for a strong man like him, subspace talent is really like a mouse, and he will hide. Especially for a challenger like Jia Yan, as a challenger himself, how can you still hide? Inside the space, is this like a challenger? But he also understands that this is Jia Yan's fighting style. Even if he is unhappy, he can't ask others to come out of space to fight him. It's a pity that he just saw Jia Yan suddenly use a subspace fighting technique that he had never seen before. Part of his feet actually fell into the subspace, resulting in less influence. In addition to being a sinister strongman, besides, he is actually considered a genius. He is very interested in attack techniques that he has never seen before, so he wants Jia Yan to fight him head-on and learn more about them. Unexpectedly, Jia Yan still adopted the plan of hiding in the subspace and waiting for opportunities to fight. This is the reason why many strong people are unwilling to fight with subspace talented people of the same level. This Black Sheep is indeed powerful. Inside the subspace, Jia Yan looked at the way his right front foot was completely dark because he had to block the lightning in the few moves he just made, and he had a general understanding of the terror of the Black Sheep in his heart. In a head-on fight, he would most likely not be an opponent. Even if Jia Yan has prepared many methods for this battle, such as the half-virtual and half-real foot moves before, this is because he knows that Black Sheep has the talents of lightning and gravity. In order to make these two talents more effective for him, the impact is minimized, so I used a move that makes the body half virtual and half solid. But just like that, after the attack just now, he realized that these moves, which were developed in less than 2 years, were just like improvising. There was a high chance that they could not be reused, and he almost overturned when he used them before. But my subspace talent is still a huge advantage. This at least guarantees that I will not be too seriously injured by him. Even if the Zerg Queen turns against me on the spot, as long as I escape to the 10th degree, I can escape, of course, but if I really fall out with her, she won't be able to let me escape into 10 degrees. Jia Yan was thinking a little too much and let out a long sigh. After realizing that today's battle was not that simple, he regarded this battle as the most difficult one after his promotion and the one where he could best understand his own strength. Anyway, no one will die in this battle, the Queen of the Zerg is here. Puff. Jia Yan started to wander inside the subspace. But Black Sheep simply waited there, because he knew that Jia Yan would not run away, but would only choose to attack him. Otherwise, Jia Yan's face would be lost. Because of the challenge he asked for, people ran away after 2 attacks. That would be really ridiculous. Is this guy waiting for something to happen? Just in time, another move I practiced earlier, try it on you. Jia Yan sneered and used the new move he had developed in the subspace. Several pieces of meteorite explosives came quickly around him. These are all positive and negative force meteorites that were randomly obtained by the outside world before he came. He has been able to transform the planet. It can be said that it is very simple to transform a few meteorites that are 10 kilometers in size. It does not take too much time. Done. Bang bang. While Jia Yan shuttled quickly, these meteorites shot towards Black Sheep from several directions in subspace. Huh? So fast. Is he here? Black Sheep discovered that within 3 dimensions of the subspace, a large object was rushing towards him at a high speed. His expression was slightly solemn, but not panicked. He was just waiting for Jia Yan to take the initiative, so that he could catch the kid in the space this time, and then seriously injured him with a corner. It's best to destroy all his talents, otherwise this guy's strength will stagnate in the future. So the other party couldn't help but attack on his own, which was what the Black Sheep wanted. Haha, hurt me. Black Sheep caught the moment when the fast impacting object came behind the subspace, and fired out his own electricity. A huge light with a diameter of at least several hundred meters between the 2 horns shot into the subspace. Boom. The approaching object did not dodge, and collided with the electricity. The sound of the explosion almost made all the onlookers deaf and... Oh? Interesting. No one could tell what moves Jia Yan used, except the Zerg Queen, who smiled slightly. Perhaps in the eyes of the Domain Lord creature, the method used by Jia Yan was a little surprising. Moreover, the Zerg Queen not only saw that Jia Yan only used this move to attract the enemy, but also had 2 other back UPS. It's actually fake. As soon as the Black Sheep released the electric light and collided with the object approaching quickly, he felt that the object was not Jia Yan himself. He was slightly startled, then forced himself to steady himself amid the sound of the explosion, and gradually retreated, keeping an eye on his side. Sure enough, he soon discovered 2 more objects rushing from the left and right. Which one is real and which one is fake? Or, are both fake? Black Sheep is so depressed. Jia Yan actually used this method. It's a shame that he used such a move to reach the top of the middle level of the galaxy. In the eyes of Black Sheep and other creatures, Jia Yan's moves were too weird and he was following a deceitful path. This was different from their style, or in other words, different from the styles of the strong men in the entire galaxy, at least most of the strong men. And what's annoying is that by taking this path, he really went out of his own way. Look at this extremely familiar thing like a chess piece in the subspace. He has actually used it to great proficiency. God knows how many people he has depressed with this move. Huh, since it's hard to tell, I'll hide for now. Black Sheep would not choose to stupidly keep taking advantage of Jia Yan's moves, so he chose to retreat a little further. But his evacuation direction was accurately calculated by Jia Yan. Sure enough, I have analyzed Black Sheep's previous fighting style. He likes to retreat to the right and rear. This is probably just a subconscious habit of his, but to me, it is an absolute flaw and exploit. Jia Yan was inside the subspace and saw that Black Sheep had indeed seen through the 2 shots. They were just fake meteorites. He was not surprised at all. Instead, he saw the direction he was retreating from, and his eyes suddenly flashed with surprise. Brilliance. Because he himself was already within 3 dimensions of the subspace on the right side of Black Sheep's exit, ready to go. When the Black Sheep began to retreat, he was as fierce as a spring-loaded toy, exploding from the place to the outside world like an extremely ferocious explosion. What? Black Sheep just felt the sound of 2 explosions not far ahead. He didn't have time to feel the power of the 2 explosions, but he directly sensed the crisis behind him. This bastard is so disgusting. After Black Sheep's expression became solemn, he immediately became ferocious. He knew that he had been successfully plotted by Jia Yan, but this did not mean that he had lost. As a being who fought against strong men every day, how could he lose so easily? Faced with situations that were several times, or even dozens of times more dangerous than this, he had turned things around. Jia Yan, let me show you the difference between a practical warrior and a sneaky rat like you. Click. Black Sheep actually forced one of his black horns to break off from his head, and the entire horn turned into lightning, which shot into the back of him and just rushed to the first dimension, looking for the book garden miss ready to attack in front of Jia Yan, who is standing sideways behind Black Sheep. This. Jia Yan was shocked. He didn't expect that Black Sheep would use such a move. In a battle between strong men, any hesitation or pause at this time is an important key point that affects the victory or defeat of a strong man. Jia Yan was instantly hit by the electric horns rushing in front of him, and his whole body lit up with a dazzling electric arc. At the same time, an earth-shattering force of gravity surged out from the Black Sheep's body, completely covering the giant mosquito that had just exposed its foot in the subspace, but missed the Black Sheep by a hair's breadth. Behind him, lightning flashed brightly, illuminating a vast expanse of starry sky. Black Sheep calmly turned around and slowly turned around. He, Jia Yan, now, do you know what is the biggest gap between you and an upright and powerful person? While the Black Sheep regained its strength, it raised a front hoof, shone it into a space, and was about to step down. Your talent is indeed very good, but I don't like the way you fight. You don't look like a strong person at all. I don't like the way you speak, and I don't like the fact that you have a heart that surpasses me. Now, you give me go get hurt. The Black Sheep's feet suddenly stepped down. At this moment, the galaxy level, point and star level creatures watching the battle all around looked at the Zerg Queen one by one. They believe that this is the time for the Zerg Queen to take action. The two sides fought really hard, and sure enough, although Jia Yan performed well, he still couldn't beat Black Sheep. So if you want to save Jia Yan, at least prevent him from being seriously injured, you have to see whether the Zerg Queen takes action. But what surprised everyone was that the Queen of the Zerg had no intention of moving at all. Black Sheep, so, is this the reason why you and I don't deal with each other? Please remember the first domain name of this book. 4novel.com. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2140. Grown. When Jia Yan said the above calm words, very magical positive and negative forces suddenly surged through his body. The ability of Yin and Yang Dao gradually began to show more unique abilities. This is also an important reason why Jia Yan dares to come to Black Sheep to fight. For example, now, he seems to be stuck at the intersection between subspace and normal space by gravity and electric light, but Jia Yan's ability has been controlling the situation. At least for his own body, he knew that even after being reduced to this result, he was still not in a desperate situation. After a long and steady groan, Jia Yan's head, which seemed to have been stepped on by the Black Sheep's foot, instantly got rid of control and retracted into the subspace. Thank you for thinking so highly of me, but if you want me to get hurt, then you are not polite. On the other hand, I will use this trick to get you hurt. Jia Yan's foot unknowingly stabbed Black Sheep's side. In fact, this stab did not require full force, because if it had been used with full force, Black Sheep's strength could easily detect it early. However, this battle did not require full force. Their victory or defeat depended on who was injured first. So Jia Yan used his own body as a bait to attract the Black Sheep to lose its vigilance for a certain period of time, and then used this stabbing attack. Puff. This. When Black Sheep noticed the attack, it was already too late. His side was struck silently and with insufficient attack power. The hair and skin of the black giant wool were scratched, and a little blood came out. For a strong man, this bit of blood has no effect at all. It should even be said that it should be an exciting catalyst for the battle. Such a scratch will make him more ferocious. The problem is, this battle is not a real battle, but a battle where whoever gets hurt loses. This. How can it be? That Jia Yan is despicable. Each of the galaxy-level and star-level experts who were watching the battle saw the injury, but no one was willing to admit the consequences. But results are results. Okay, Black Sheep is injured. This is a duel with Jia Yan. Please separate. The voice of the Zerg Queen was gently transmitted to the ears of both parties in the battle. Especially Black Sheep, his murderous plan was already on the rise, and he was ready for a real battle with Jia Yan, but when the voice of the Zerg Queen sounded, his whole body froze. Did I lose? Humph, Jia Yan, you used a good trick. Black Sheep was extremely unwilling, and besides, his strength had not been fully used yet. If it were a real battle, such a slight injury would not have any impact on him at all. But if he loses, not to mention the battle that the Zerg Queen is here to witness personally. If he loses, there is no possibility of going back on his words. It's just that he won't admit that he is weaker than Jia Yan. I accept it, Your Excellency Black Sheep. Jia Yan sneered, emerged from another place in the subspace, and then stood in the normal space. Seeing the Black Sheep's eyes that were choosing and devouring people, Jia Yan felt extremely happy in his heart. He likes to look at this kind of look that clearly wants to eat him, but he can't do anything about it. It's just, Black Sheep is indeed strong, so strong that Jia Yan is a little afraid to confirm who will win in a life and death battle between the two. Black Sheep, Jia Yan, now there is a fight between the two of you, and the holiday has been roughly resolved. Don't fight again for no reason in the future. Yes. Understood. Under the strong request of the Zerg Queen, Jia Yan, and the unwilling Black Sheep lowered their heads in response. It's just that no one knows what kind of mood the two parties have. What's more, even the Queen of the Zerg understands whether these two beings who are only one level weaker than herself will start a life and death fight again without her control. The battle was something she thought would definitely begin. One was that Suji was assassinated, and the other was defeated in front of a large number of people from the Zerg Queen's forces. The contradiction between them has reached an irreconcilable level. But she doesn't care about so much. At this point, she just wants to rob this time, oh no, in the process of acquiring the power of the two major domain lords, the two guys just don't make trouble. If one of them dies later, it won't be the same. Is there another person who can help me continue to develop? Besides, these two guys, at first glance, are the seedlings of the territory lord, especially Jia Yan. I didn't expect that his promotion speed was so fast despite being assassinated and attacked one after another. I guess the speed of becoming a domain master will exceed the imagination of the Zerg Queen. Your Majesty Black Sheep, we don't know each other without fighting. Now that Her Majesty the Queen has spoken, we must be friendly with each other in the future. Jia Yan smiled and turned to look at the Black Sheep, whose face had turned dark, and then flew away directly. Not long after, in this starry sky, there was only the Black Sheep who was interrupted by others in his practice, came out to fight for no reason, and lost. Bastard, bastard. Jia Yan, I didn't expect you to grow to this point. But don't be proud, it won't take long, you will die in my hands if you don't escape. Black Sheep looked around and saw that there were several galactic-level experts who were friendly with him and even gave him a certificate. Now that they saw Black Sheep's defeat, they were submissive and did not dare to come forward to comfort him. After all, the defeat means that Black Sheep may not be as good as Jia Yan. In the future, Jia Yan will gain a status comparable to or even greater than Black Sheep in the Zerg Queen's power. Naturally, they will not dare to get close. Snort. Black Sheep didn't say much to them, but turned back to his own planet. He has a very intuitive understanding of his status, not to mention that he knows in his heart that it is impossible for Jia Yan to kill him. Even if he can do it, a large number of ordinary affairs within the power cannot be handled by being strong. The Queen of the Zerg wants to. There are too many places to rely on him, and his status is not only established based on force value. It's just that if he doesn't say this, these galaxy level ones will gradually discover this in the future. The only problem is that Black Sheep felt a deep crisis through this battle. I originally thought that in terms of strength, it would be enough to suppress the other two giants at the top of the mid-level galaxy, but I never expected that Jia Yan, who had always looked down on him, would actually rise up, and even attack him under the spotlight. He had a technical defeat. That's right, those who watch the recorded video carefully will see that this is just a technical defeat caused by Jia Yan through certain small means. In a real life and death fight, everyone will see that Black Sheep is stronger. But losing is losing. The alarm bell in Black Sheep's heart sounded like never before. He wants to reach the Territory Lord level faster. As long as he reaches the Territory Lord level, shouldn't this mere Jia Yan be allowed to be rounded or flattened by him? Ah, Jia, Master Jia Yan. I'm sorry, I just saw that you can't live in this planet anymore, so I'm temporarily moving in. This will make room for you. When Jia Yan enjoyed a lot of attention and found his extremely well-decorated planet, he saw that there was already a galaxy-level powerhouse living on it that he had never met before. A large piece of scenery that was originally quite nice has changed a lot after being lived in by this guy. Especially in the peaceful environment of the planet, this guy built 2 large volcanoes. Obviously this is his hobby, although having 2 volcanoes had a different flavor, but for Jia Yan, it was as if his bed had been changed, and he was very unhappy. There is no need to spare it. Let's do this. This planet will be sold to you at the original price, or you can build another planet and decorate it according to my instructions. Otherwise, this matter will not be settled with you. You choose one of the two. Jia Yan was a little unhappy. He had waited for a long time to choose the planet, and within a few days, he actually enjoyed it for a long time. But this is no one's fault. Within the Zerg Queen's energy circle, there are actually not many planetary resources, and there are very few renovated planets like his. When news spread that he had died in the outside world, some people would naturally move this planet to the outside world. The result of recycling it into an ownerless thing, and even letting other galaxy-class people live on it, may be something the Zerg Queen agreed to do. It turns out that the planet where the galaxy-level powerhouse who was Jia Yan's neighbor has gone is unknown. This guy originally had a very good relationship with Jia Yan, but now I don't know if he is performing a mission in the outside world, and no one has been seen. In addition, those who occupy the Jia Yan planet, plus most of the galaxy-level and star-level people in the energy circle, are flashing with more complete system fluctuations that only belong to the strong ones in the central star field of the Milky Way. Obviously, they are all new a native who joins the Zerg Queen's forces. The concept of the Zerg Queen's force is not that only strong people from the outside can join, and there is no distinction between disciples, because the people who originally joined this force are the strong people from all over the place mixed together. If you want to figure out who is the Zerg if there is a distinction between the Queen's orthodox subordinates, then this force would not be as strong as it is today, and even Jia Yan would not be able to join it. Speaking of this, many people probably still remember that Jia Yan initially joined the Zerg Queen force, but insisted that it was a cooperation. Those words are still in my ears now, but things have changed. The strong man who was only the first level of the galaxy has now risen to the peak of the middle level of the galaxy. He is only one step away from the strength of the Territory Lord, and even defeated the Zerg. The Queen's power is the strongest Black Sheep except the Queen. Although it remains to be discussed whether this combat power is real, at least it was just the word cooperation that Jia Yan joked about at first, but now no one can laugh out loud anymore. With Jia Yan's miraculous promotion speed, maybe he will be promoted to the Territory Lord level in a short time. Even if he is still weaker than the Zerg Queen, who is considered a powerful among Territory Lords, he can be upright and real. The person who said the word cooperation. At first he was laughing at those galactic and star level things, but now he was examining himself one by one and couldn't help but feel ashamed. They have reached the central star field of the galaxy where they have the greatest opportunities and the easiest promotion in the entire galaxy, but their strength is still stuck. Even if there are 1 or 2 breakthroughs, they will only be stuck before they can break through. A long time grade. But Jia Yan has crossed 2 levels. Maybe this is the real genius. Some of the talented galaxy-level experts who were regarded as seeds like Jia Yan at the beginning are now afraid to leave their homes because they feel uncomfortable when they see the glances of others, even though they have performed well. One of them was a genius who was originally at the top of the primary level of the galaxy and was promoted to the intermediate level of the galaxy. However, compared to Jia Yan, who advanced to the peak of the intermediate level of the galaxy in one go, there was a huge difference. Your Excellency Jia Yan, is this the planet you chose? It's really big. Right? Haha, I have been afraid of small things since I was a child, and I am used to being poor, so I want a big planet. This planet happened to be something that none of you wanted, so I picked it up. On the 10th day after Jia Yan returned to the power of the Zerg Queen, a residential star customized by Jia Yan was dragged back into the energy circle. With his strength, he already has enough rights to customize a planet. The outside world will entrust a fleet or other chambers of commerce, or even directly dispatch a strong man at the beginning of the galaxy to take over the task and drag the planet back. In essence, the planet that Jia Yan wanted, apart from being big, really didn't have many characteristics. At least it is much larger than the planets inhabited by other powerful people in the energy circle. The largest planet among others is 1,000 kilometers in diameter. This is already a benefit that those giants can enjoy. After all, the energy circle is only that big, and if you want to enlarge the planet, it will squeeze other places. But what Jia Yan dragged back this time was actually a planet with a diameter of 2,000 kilometers. Even the palace of the Zerg Queen is not as big as this planet. Originally this belonged to Ziyu, but it broke the rules. But because it was Jia Yan, everyone looked on with cold eyes and did not say anything about him. Even the Queen of the Zerg did not speak out, as if Jia Yan was allowed to do these things. After all, he has already defeated Black Sheep and has the potential to be promoted to Territory Lord in the future. As long as it is not excessive, the Zerg Queen already regards him as a somewhat equal existence to some extent. Of course, it is not easy for the Territory Lord to be promoted. Among the dozens of beings who are stuck at the top of the intermediate galaxy, it is difficult to find a successful promotion. At the moment, whether it is Black Sheep or Jia Yan, including the other 2 who are at the intermediate peak of the galaxy giant, before she succeeds, the Queen of the Zerg will not be directly regarded as an equal creature. Although this step is short-term, taking one step away is the difference between heaven and earth. If you want to be on an equal footing with her, you must at least take a step forward. This is the only step. And the more critical point is that the big planet Jia Yan requested is actually of no value at all. If it is a resource-rich planet, or even a planet that is conducive to cultivation, then it is inevitable that some people will be angry. For example, if the resources on this planet are used as necessary for the development of power, they will definitely have greater value. But unfortunately, what Jia Yan wants is a very basic planet that is completely worthless, with not many minerals and no unique resources. This has been personally investigated by a galaxy-level powerhouse, so there can be no mistake. Please remember the first domain name of this book. 4novel.com. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2141. The only value of this planet is that it is big. It is at least larger than other planets inhabited by strong people. It would be more comfortable for a strong person who is 30 kilometers long to live on it. But none of them knew that Jia Yan had already made other preparations when he wanted this planet. Wow, Master, will this planet be our destination for a long time from now on? Can I call it Edisha? Yes, this is an upgrade alternative for the Edissa. In addition, the brain of this star will also be you. Really? Ha 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 ha, thank you master, I'm so happy that I will have such a big planet to manage in the future. Master, can I change the light and shadow clone of a creature? Okay. Watching Editha running around on the planet, turning into a small mosquito of light and shadow, looking here and touching there, Jia Yan couldn't help but feel satisfied with this planet. After all, he has always wanted a large planet like this, a base when he enters subspace in the future, and a home anytime and anywhere. Don't say that there are many such planets and you need to find them. It's true that there are many planets to look for. But the problem is that Jia Yan still has to find people to decorate and transform them. This requires extremely terrifying power and resources, even if it is placed in the galaxy. Among the other major forces in the center, there are not many that have the ability of the Zerg Queen. In terms of technology, in the past few years of the attack, the Zerg Queen's forces have already absorbed a lot. Moreover, they have been helping the strong to build planets and have much more experience. Sir, we have not transformed this, such a big planet, and the resources and funds required will be much higher than other adults' planets. I don't know, sir. When the decoration and renovation team came to Jia Yan's side, their eyes popped out of their sockets when they saw the hugeness of the planet. They have not transformed such a huge planet. After all, they are specialized in doing this. But doubling the diameter of the planet means increasing the surface area several times. If the diameter is more than doubled or even 2 or 3 times larger, it will be complicated. The degree is even higher. Jia Yan's planet with a diameter of 2,000 kilometers is much larger than all the surrounding planets. Even Black Sheep only uses one with a diameter of 1,000 kilometers, which shows how exaggerated his planet is. It's okay. As for money, I will find a way. In addition, didn't I have a comrade who borrowed the planet before? Since the planet is now given to him, he should pay for it, right? He will pay 1/3 the money, and the other 2/3 of the money. I had an interest in a business star before, right, and I must have a lot of it after these 2 years. If it's not enough, I still have some for myself. In terms of expenses, Jia Yan has the above ideas in mind, otherwise he would really be reluctant to build a large planet. At this moment, a junior being from the galaxy who came to see the excitement changed his face wildly. All the fellow galaxy-level experts around him looked at him helplessly and took a step back, fearing that this guy would immediately ask them to borrow money. Because this entry-level powerhouse in the galaxy was the one who occupied Jia Yan's original home planet. Hearing Jia Yan's handling of the matter at this moment, he could almost cry without tears. If he were to build that planet himself, even if he hired a professional team to do it, it would not cost as much as 1/3 of a planet with a diameter of 2,000 kilometers. Moreover, it would be luxuriously decorated. What Jia Yan left for him was only a medium-sized one. Just decoration. A planet with a diameter of 2,000 kilometers is really huge. You must know that the diameter of the moon is only 3,476 kilometers. The diameter of this planet is 2,000 kilometers, which is equivalent to more than half of the moon. If placed outside the Earth, it would be another moon. Of course, Jia Yan will not let it go. In the future, this planet will be enough to be his residence for a long time. After all, it is only 30 kilometers across now. Even if it could reach the very top of the Milky Way, it would probably not be more than 100 or 200 kilometers away, and it would still be possible to live on this planet. Actually, I don't want to be too strict in terms of decoration. The only requirement is that this kind of structure should be installed and spread all over the planet. The drawings Jia Yan handed over were a set of defense subspace designers from the Edissa. Only with this kind of thing can the Edissa come and go freely in the depths of subspace. Otherwise, it will definitely be like ordinary objects. It will turn into powder without the protection of Jia Yan's brainwave power. Huh? This is something from subspace. After receiving the drawings, the people in the engineering team were knowledgeable and quickly recognized what the object was, but the person in charge did not dare to say more. If you say it, it seems like you are revealing some information. Because Jia Yan has come and gone in the Zerg Queen's force several times, and although he has a lot of military exploits, he is less loyal than others, so he has told them about many aspects. Pay attention. Jia Yan's every move. Although the construction person in charge did not say anything, the news will surely spread to his brothers soon. In fact, the Zerg Queen soon learned all about the design of the largest planet in the entire energy circle that Jia Yan was decorating. Oh, he actually designed the subspace. In other words, does he have the intention to put the star into the subspace? He has quite an idea. After reading the design drawings, the Zerg Queen smiled slightly, but didn't care so much. As mentioned before, with the existence of Jia Yan's strength, the Zerg Queen's power has less and less constraints on him. As long as it is not excessive, the Zerg Queen will no longer force him to do anything. Even if what he was doing might make it easier for Jia Yan to leave the Zerg Queen's power in the future, she wouldn't care so much. If the heart is no longer there, how can it be restrained? Especially since he still exists in subspace, if he really wants to leave, as long as he leaves a certain distance, the Zerg Queen will not be able to catch him. Similarly, after this matter was spread, various galaxy-level beings expressed admiration for Jia Yan's boldness and lack of scruples in his actions, but also felt that he was a bit arrogant. But there is no way. Who can let him have the record of defeating the black sheep in a competition? This kind of existence, to put it harshly, is already the first person in the Zerg Queen's power, except for the Zerg Queen. It's really a privilege. A piece of cake. Of course, Black Sheep and its fans will probably not recognize Jia Yan's strength. If both sides really talk about it, Black Sheep still feels that he is stronger than Jia Yan. But this matter needs to be verified to know. Anyway, Jia Yan won a small victory in the collision between the two. This is a fact and cannot be disputed. Things passed like this gradually for several days. Jia Yan's decoration of the planet did not become a hot topic for a long time, because everyone quickly got used to it. Moreover, this planet does not have many minerals and special features, which is just a big word. Therefore, some galaxy-level powerhouses who want to be unbalanced gradually want to be balanced. On this day, Jia Yan, who was practicing in the undecorated other half of the planet, received a message from the Queen of the Zerg. Does the Queen want to see me? Okay. Without thinking much, Jia Yan flew out of the huge planet with the envoy, and flew together to the palace where the Queen of the Zerg lived. When they arrived at the edge of the field, they saw no less than 20 galaxy-level warriors here. At least half of the galaxy-level powerhouses were unknown to Jia Yan, and many of these half of the powerhouses showed fluctuations in the cultivation skills of the galaxy's central star region, and they were obviously born in the galaxy's central star region. It seems that the Zerg Queen and others are developing well in the central star field of the Milky Way. Even the locals have gradually attracted so many people. Of course, all this depends first on the strength of the Zerg Queen, and then on the prospects of the Force. The most important thing is that everyone is optimistic about the strength of the Zerg Queen. Puff. When all the Zing levels were looking at the approaching Jia Yan, with their own different brilliance in their eyes, at the top of the palace, the Zerg Queen crawling in the sky flicked her snake tail, causing a wave of fluctuations, making everyone pay attention again. Transferred back to her body. Jia Yan, come to me. The Zerg Queen said calmly. Good. Jia Yan showed no fear at all. He walked directly to the Zerg Queen with a smile and floated next to her. This floating body is quite elegant. It is not like other Galaxy Class 1s, crawling on the ground and completely showing a sense of compliance. Instead, it floats a little lower than the Zerg Queen. If you don't pay attention, you would think that he is with the Zerg Queen. Queen tied. The Galaxy-class people below were all thinking wildly as they watched this scene. Even the Zerg Queen herself took a deep look at Jia Yan and saw that the other party seemed to have done it unintentionally, and a smile appeared on her anthropomorphic facial features. Then let's not pursue these matters. Today, I asked you to come here to announce something. The Queen of the Zerg saw that almost everyone had arrived. Except for Black Sheep and a few others who were still in seclusion, as well as more than half of the Galaxy class who were fighting outside, and some of them whose whereabouts were unknown like Jia Yan before, almost everyone who could come had come. So she spoke. Some people may have thought of what I am going to say. Yes, I am ready to announce that 1 year from today, our Zerg Queen force will leave this starry sky because the war in this starry sky has escalated and the enemy has become it's getting more and more difficult to deal with, and if we don't leave, we'll lose more than we gain. Starting from today, everyone will try their best to prepare the supplies obtained in recent years, and then we leave. Of course, the war cannot collapse, do you understand? Even Jia Yan had guessed what the Zerg Queen announced, not to mention other galaxy-level powerhouses who had a better understanding of the battle situation and situation. For a moment, everyone shouted loudly, "Understood." In this land of starry sky, with the energy of the first powerful person in the energy circle, they have conquered a large territory, grabbed a lot of resources, and recruited a lot of local strong people. For the Zerg Queen, it's already a bumper harvest. It's just that the two territory lords are two territory lords after all. Even if they join forces, the Zerg Queen can't beat her. In addition, they are locals, and they really endanger other forces. The Zerg Queen's force has no choice but to perish in the face of the coalition forces of all the surrounding forces. Moreover, after several years of intense offensive against the Zerg Queen's forces, the two major territorial lord forces are stronger because of their abundant personnel. After so many years, all the strong men have been tempered into elite soldiers and generals. With the numerical advantage, the Zerg Queen's forces can move forward. Pushing forward is no longer realistic. The captured territory has almost been looted, so if we don't leave now, when will we wait? Okay, you can leave first. Your Excellency Jia Yan, please stay. As soon as the Zerg Queen was announced, all the Galaxy class looked at Jia Yan, and left without any surprise. In the past, when the Black Sheep was around, it was usually the Black Sheep who stayed behind. Now that the Black Sheep has lost a battle, he still chooses to remain in seclusion. Unless the Zerg Queen forcibly summons him, he will not appear. Then the only person who can replace Black Sheep is Jia Yan, who is rumored to be able to defeat Black Sheep. After each Galaxy class left, the Zerg Queen turned to look at Jia Yan, who had been suspended beside her for a long time. Jia Yan, are you proud of flying beside me? The Queen of the Zerg didn't say anything else, she actually said this directly. Jia Yan shook his head slightly, I don't dare. Well, now that you have achieved this status, you have to shoulder considerable responsibilities, do you understand? Clear. Okay, it's inconvenient for me to appear on the battlefield. I can. Then, how about you be the commander-in-chief of the entire retreat battlefield? Of course, you are only the commander-in-chief in name only. At most, you are the commander-in-chief. When the enemy's mid-level peak powerhouse appears, step forward to block it, can you do this? Jia Yan knew what the Zerg Queen meant and nodded immediately. I can do it, but Her Majesty the Queen, if I do this, the reward should not be too little. If the treatment is still the same as before, I will resign. Today, he dared to make such a joke with the Zerg Queen. You are a chicken thief, tell me the reward. Well, as long as you are suitable for this position, then the future income will be given to you according to Black Sheep's previous income, how about it? It's just that in the next year, if the enemy knows that we are retreating, he will definitely there is a wave of crazy battles, and we even want to keep most of our main force here. The pressure on you will not be too low, so you understand, please think carefully if you are willing. The Zerg Queen spoke of the dangers in the coming year. I do, Her Majesty the Queen. Back then, I was able to escape from the Territory Lord's creature. Now, no matter how dangerous it is, will it be more dangerous than before? Don't tell me, there is a Territory Lord who will come forward to deal with me. In that case, I can only blame you. Giggle, Jia Yan, don't worry, those two domain lords can't be dispatched. The Zerg Queen smiled extremely conceitedly. After hearing this, Jia Yan nodded immediately, since they can't dispatch, then I have nothing against it. I will take over this matter. Very good, he is indeed the person I like. Not long after, Jia Yan's giant mosquito body flew away from this huge palace. Her Majesty the Queen, do you really want to hand over the position of Commander-in-Chief to His Excellency Jia Yan? Do you know that his title in the outside world is? Please remember the first domain name of this book. 4novel.com. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2142. Facing the question from a peak mid-level powerhouse from inside the palace, the Zerg Queen smiled slightly. Jia Bao Bao, right? Haha, you don't have to believe these jokes. Even if it were me, with his previous strength, he would still choose to run away when encountering existences such as the Territory Lord. Even if I can't run away, it won't matter. It's not certain. I just hope that he won't disappoint me and won't run away as soon as he encounters danger this time. The voice was silent for a while, then sighed and gradually fell silent. You know, when Jia Yan was here before, he was not aware of the existence of the owner of this voice, which shows how terrifying this creature's hiding ability is. Of course, this is also because the other party has no intention of attacking. Otherwise, Jia Yan, under the awareness of crisis, would definitely be able to detect it immediately. After that, it is hard to say who will win and who will lose. Of course, what surprised Jia Yan the most was that he was gradually searching for his new nickname on the internet in the entire small circle at this time. Jia Bao Bao. Together with Edissa, he searched the internet on the huge planet and saw that some weak people actually promoted his new nickname, and his expression suddenly became weird. Haha, I didn't expect that there are many humorists in the Zerg Queen's force. Humph, don't let me know who was the first to give this name, otherwise, humph. Jia Yan gritted his teeth. Master, this is actually quite good. It means that you can escape when you encounter danger, doesn't it? Not only can we not be angry, but we must also carry forward our running style. It is best to succeed when we encounter high-level existences in the galaxy in the future. Escape, that's when we become famous all over the world. Editha flew next to Jia Yan, her little mosquito body of light and shadow kept talking, and she didn't seem to notice that the giant mosquito next to her rolled her eyes. This little guy seems to be getting less and less cute. Jia Yan became unhappy with Edissa's talkativeness. Of course, it was just a nickname, and for him, it caused a period of discomfort. This did not prevent Jia Yan from accepting his new appointment. So many creatures knew that Jia Bao Bao had actually been appointed as the latest commander-in-chief by the Queen of Zerg. Everyone was wailing in their hearts, fearing that the war would get the most intense. This commander-in-chief will give up the struggle and war and escape alone. Moreover, there is indeed a force on the internet that is conducting a propaganda war against Jia Yan, saying that he likes to escape and that he likes to make sneak attacks. In short, he is not suitable for this kind of command work. As a result, before Jia Yan even took up his post, a large number of soldiers and senior leaders of the front began to dislike him. Hey, these guys, I didn't even show off my commanding skills, so they started saying that I wasn't suitable. This actually made me a little more motivated to fight. I didn't feel much about this commanding position at first, but now I still feel a little bit. Want to do well. On the day Jia Yan left, not many Zing level people came out to see him off. This is a very rare thing, you know, he is the commander-in-chief. On the one hand, the reason is that the war has begun, and all the personnel of the Zerg Queen's force are engaged in diplomatic warfare and carrying out their own work. On the other hand, it also shows how unpopular Jia Yan is today. Your Excellency Jia Yan, you go to take charge of the overall situation first. I will be here soon. I will ask you to take care of me when the time comes. The two Zing novices seemed to be alone in sending Jia Yan off. Okay, then I'll wait for you two to kill the enemy with me. Jia Yan smiled and then got into the subspace. Inside the subspace, the Edissa has been waiting here. Jia Yan's 2,000-kilometer diameter planet has not yet been renovated, so he can only use the Edissa for the time being. Edissa, speed up and get to the command post as soon as possible. I want to show them that I, Jia Baobao, can escape and become the fastest person on the line of fire as soon as possible. Jia Yan looked very unhappy with the title of Jia Baobao. Although he joined the battle group one day earlier and one day later, it actually didn't have much impact, but for him, it was a link to let others see his true speed. What's more, he is now a figure at the top of the middle level of the galaxy. If he doesn't show something extraordinary, many people may not be convinced by him. Okay. The Edisha sprayed out a ball of flame and latched onto Jia Yan's back. Then, Jia Yan also released his subdimensional talent. With the cooperation of the two, he gradually flew into the subspace. Deep subspace flight is extremely fast. At this moment, the entire surrounding battlefield was indeed in full swing. Anyone with a discerning eye can see that the Zerg Queen's forces are preparing to leave. After all, as such a force, everyone knows that they cannot stay here for a long time. After all, this kind of force does not have any elements to stay in one place for a long time. With their strength, they can combine two domain lord level forces. If you step on the ground and crush it for a while, it won't last long, so grabbing a handful and leaving is the inevitable result. Ever since, as soon as the slightest thought of leaving was shown, the manpower of the two forces immediately turned tit for tat, preparing to prevent the final stage of the Zerg Queen's force from proceeding smoothly. It's not that the Zerg Queen's forces are completely left behind, because they also understand that they can't do it. They are really desperate. If the Zerg Queen goes to war with the two domain lords, it is possible that one or even two of them will die together with the Zerg Queen. The same is true for the masters. Although the masters of the Zerg Queen's force are far less than those of the two major domain lord forces, the Zerg Queen suppresses them with her absolute personal strength, so that every time the two major forces fight, they can only use more powerful weapons than the Zerg. In terms of the Queen's power, she only has twice as many masters. In the early stages of the war, the masters of the Zerg Queen's forces, because they had more actual combat experience, even though the masters here should have better talents, they still cleverly suppressed the enemy. But things are different now. After several years of fighting, the creatures of the two domain lord level forces have gained combat experience, and their actual combat abilities have increased rapidly in a manner consistent with their talents. Therefore, on the side of the Zerg Queen's force, it became impossible to fight one against two, and the balance of the battle became increasingly tilted towards the enemy. This is also the reason why the Zerg Queen is preparing to leave. But they want to leave, but the two major domain lord forces will make the Zerg Queen force suffer for a while, at least they can't get it so comfortably. How could it be allowed to just leave after robbing, even taking away many local strongmen who were aspiring to become robbers? Puff. In the sky, two primary-level creatures from the galaxy joined forces to fight against a powerful primary-level galactic man. The strong man of the first level of the galaxy was clumsy, and it could be said that he was using all his energy to stop the siege of the two strong men. Ha ha ha, it turns out you are so weak. Do you still remember how proud you were 2 years ago when you dealt with the two of us by yourself and beat us so hard that we could hardly fight back? Now only 2 years have passed, and you have become like this. Such a look, haha. This is called reincarnation. Retribution is not good. Last time you beat us too, now we too are sending you to the west. The strong man at the beginning of the galaxy supports the strength of the entire battle line by himself. Behind him is a large fleet and battle line of the Zerg Queen's forces. If this battle is lost, then the Zerg Queen's forces on this front will be defeated. The entire area was cut off, and a large area of supplies could not be sent back to the Zerg Queen's forces. It could be said that this was the top priority of a war. Of course, this strong man is not thinking about the battle line at this time, he just wants to live. If you can't survive, there will be no battlefront. Damn it! These people who rely on talent, you actually need two to beat one of me. If you are capable of one-on-one, poof. Before the Zerg Queen's force had finished speaking, a strong person of the first level of the galaxy was hit in the abdomen by a blow from a strong person of the first level of the galaxy, and his whole body spurted out a mouthful of blood that contained the original power of a strong person of the galaxy level. Come. If an outsider obtains this kind of power, it is likely that he will advance by leaps and bounds, at least reaching the level of a venerable, and then he will be able to rely on his own talent to impact his strength. But this kind of thing, which is almost a treasure for weak creatures, is now everywhere in the starry sky. They all belong to the powerful one from the Zerg Queen. Ha ha ha, you want to challenge yourself? You can. When this strong man suffered a blow and his strength was greatly reduced, one of the two besieging strong men suddenly flew out and started a one-on-one battle with this strong man from the Zerg Queen's force. The other one stopped stepping forward because he knew that the powerful Zerg Queen who was seriously injured could defeat her without him joining the battle anymore. You kid, please give me some time to play. I want to challenge him one-on-one, haha. The two powerful men had already regarded the primary being of the Zerg Queen's force as a chess piece that they must win. When they started fighting, it was as if they were fighting for the huge battleship group behind them. The morale of our own side rose instantly, while the enemy's morale dropped to an unprecedented low, because they knew that after the death of this galaxy-level powerhouse, it would be their turn. Two large galaxies joined the battlefield, blocking the enemy's Zerg Queen front, and there was absolutely no possibility of a comeback. Ah! Damn it! The strong man from the Zerg Queen's force suddenly spat out a mouthful of obscene words. He was angry because the way the troops were arranged on the front line at this time was customized by the Black Sheep, but there were rumors from behind that after Black Sheep arranged these defensive fronts, they would no longer care about the current situation. There was no change in the front line, so I went off to do some breakthrough training. Doesn't he have any sense of responsibility? In addition, does the Zerg Queen herself have no ability to coordinate the front? If he had known that, he would have violated the regulations. Long before the arrival of these two powerful men, he would have formed a horn-like formation with the front line of the primary powerhouses from another part of the galaxy. The only problem is that I follow the rules too much. If I had known there was such a commander-in-chief, I would have fought on my own. It would be better than an unreliable black sheep. This powerful man at the beginning of the galaxy has begun to blame Black Sheep because he thinks that he is in trouble. Ha ha ha, this guy is already talking nonsense, let's kill him. Kill? I'll kill too. The two powerful men of the first level of the galaxy took action together and aimed at the first level of the galaxy on the defensive line. It is foreseeable that after the death of this primary powerhouse of the galaxy, the Zerg Queen's army on this front will be in trouble, and even the other two nearby fronts will change due to the loss of this place. In danger. The failure of the other two fronts will lead to the failure of the entire Zerg Queen force, which will lead to the collapse of the entire army. Perhaps by then, the Zerg Queen's remaining forces will be defeated, and they will have no choice but to flee in a hurry, leaving most of their resources behind, which would be the worst result. Therefore, this battle can be said to be the top priority. It is a pity that before this battle, no one thought that the enemy would actually start a battle and choose this aspect, and no strong man was free to come to support. Death? Very good. 2 of my men have been defeated. Even if I'm going to die, I won't make it easy for you. Just give me. Be careful. This guy actually wants to blow himself up. The junior galactic powerhouse from the Zerg Queen's force showed signs of self-destruction in the starry sky, frightening the 2 primary galactic powerhouses and running away. Ha ha ha, are you scared? Bah, you still have too little practical experience. The first-level powerhouse of the galaxy actually restrained the self-destruction power that had just risen in an instant, which was obviously scary. He bought a certain amount of time to escape and approached the front of the battleship. Although battleships cannot participate in the battles of the galaxy-level warriors, the fleet group is different. A large number of ordinary warships form a fleet, and under the collective firepower coverage, even the Galaxy-class warriors have to temporarily avoid the edge. This can also provide him with gain some time to escape. As long as he lives, the frontier will not die for the time being. This is the interdependence between the 2. Tricking us again. What the hell? This is another trick we have never encountered before. Thank you, you taught us another lesson. To repay you, we will send you to the west early. The 2 galaxy-level powerhouses could be said to be furious at this moment, and they directly used their trump card with sinister expressions on their faces. One of them used his body's ability to expand, that is, his own power expanded in his body, causing his body to expand to dozens of times its original size, and then sprayed out energy. The speed caused by this moment was the same. When converted into attack power, it would be extremely shocking. The other one had a very magical brainwave power, and the color of the entire world changed. This is the ability of brainwave power to transform into illusions, which can also be said to be a form of trickery. It's coming, I surely can't stop it. Can this be the end of it? Please remember the first domain name of this book. 4novel.com. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2143. The expression of the junior galactic powerhouse from the Zerg Queen's force changed, and then he smiled bitterly. He has done well enough, but now he is completely at the end of his strength and has no ability to resist at all. The only thing he hates is the commander-in-chief of this battle, Black Sheep. That guy actually gave up his commanding post and went into seclusion. It's simply a scam. If you use the common language of the Earthlings, he is a pig teammate. This wave of Black Sheep operations suddenly made him change from the powerful commanding role in the beginning to a powerful commanding role in the eyes of the creatures of the Zerg Queen. There are some flaws. Of course, this is not because Black Sheep is not powerful, but because everyone understands that Black Sheep will not consider others, he will only consider his own interests, and because he knows best, even if all of them are dead, the Zerg Queen's forces will definitely be able to leave, and there will never be any problem with his own life. This is what is called a selfish person. He, Black Sheep, if there is another chance next time, I will definitely not choose to believe you. Unless there is another good commander-in-chief, I will not believe anyone. The primary creature from the galaxy smiled bitterly, and the expanding creature behind him jumped across the endless space in an instant and ran behind him. The other strong man in the illusion seemed to have a confusing power. Ability, 100 million kilometers in one step, caught up with him in a few steps. The 2 galactic-level beings, using their trump cards together, are the galactic-level powerhouses destined to destroy the power of the Zerg Queen. There will be no next time for him. Die. The 2 first-level powerhouses of the galaxy, with sinister expressions on their faces, used all their strength together, not even caring whether the other party would use the method of self-destruction again. If they really self-destruct, they will only suffer some injuries. There is always a way to avoid death. Otherwise, if they are deceived by this guy from the Zerg Queen's force, they will be embarrassed to return to their own force. Dead, you really should die. The Zerg Queen force, a powerful person at the beginning of the galaxy, actually doesn't even have the strength to self-destruct. Just when he was about to kill him, there seemed to be some earth-shattering terrifying creature among the stars, accompanied by extremely shocking pressure, coming. Groan. The temperature in the entire starry sky was already very low, but when this powerful man came, the temperature suddenly dropped by several hundred degrees, and all living creatures felt a chill deep in their hearts. Frozen into one piece. Varied. What? The two primary creatures of the galaxy were about to kill the strong man from the Zerg Queen's force in one breath, but they found that the target they were attacking seemed to be protected by some force, and they could not release it no matter what. Give strength. Who? The two primary galactic creatures used their expansion weapon and retreated back with ugly expressions. The other one stumbled out of the illusion in one step, and then flew back together with the inflated creature in an extremely embarrassing manner. They didn't need to ask who it was. Just by looking at it, they knew it was reinforcements from the enemy, and they were extremely powerful reinforcements. Not surprisingly, they must be enemies they couldn't deal with. So while asking who it was, they still tried their best to it's better to keep some distance. This is an extremely correct approach. The war between the two sides has been going on for so many years. Everyone has encountered a strong man who is stronger than themselves. Even these two first-level existences of the galaxy have encountered similar situations on the battlefield. The previous escape became experience, and the solution at this time was very correct. Unfortunately, the powerful enemy they faced this time exceeded the level difference between them last time they encountered the mid-level galaxy. If the level is one small level difference, there is still a certain chance of escape, but if there is two small level difference, it is the same as death. Who? I, the Queen of the Zerg forces, the new commander-in-chief of the war. Jia Yan. Puff. The primary powerhouse of the expanding galaxy felt that a powerhouse suddenly came behind him, and he came from the subspace, much faster than his escape speed. Damn it, he is gifted in subspace, Jia Yan, Jia Yan. Could it be that Jia Yan? How is that possible? Isn't he dead? This inflated creature directly expanded its body. The previous expansion was to use its trump card, but this time it was inflated to escape. Bang! He exhaled in one breath and suddenly increased his speed in the starry sky. But at the fastest speed he thought he could escape, a slender giant mosquito foot protruding from the subspace gently pierced his back. Laugh. The inflated creature turned into a deflated inflatable doll and exploded. Under the blur of flesh and blood, this creature was completely in disbelief. When he looked back, he smiled bitterly. Because he sensed that the strength of this giant mosquito creature in the subspace had actually reached the peak of the middle level of the galaxy. You, a guy who has reached the pinnacle of the intermediate level, are here to cause trouble for us two galaxy beginners. Bullying. Well. This elementary creature from the galaxy side, and then lost its life. Well. On the other side, the first-level powerhouse of the galaxy, who was covered in illusions, saw the death of his partner, and his expression was even more shocked. He quickly used all his strength to move in and out of the illusion in an instant. Completely elusive. A good move. It's your ability to use the power of brainwaves so superbly. Unfortunately, this move is useless against people who force you too much. Jia Yan's voice rang out in the subspace, and then his foot lightly pierced the void, shattering countless illusions and piercing the creature's chest. Ah! I. The illusory creature wanted to say something, but all it could do was die of hatred. At this time, the first-level powerhouse of the Zerg Queen Galaxy, who had been in danger just now, was completely confused. Anyone who sees an enemy who had nearly died a moment ago, unable to hold on for a few breaths and dying directly under the hands of a strong one, will feel a little bit absurd. In a world where the strong are respected, no matter how strong a being is, it is difficult to feel safe. The reason is that there will always be strong people stronger than you, and they can easily take your life. At this time, the strong man had such a feeling. This is Jia Yan. He finally relaxed and felt the power in the space carefully, and then his expression changed. Yes, it's me. Suddenly, a terrifying force came from within the subspace around him and started talking to him at the same time. Well. The figure of the giant Mosquito appeared beside him without any warning. Jia Yan, no, Your Excellency Jia Yan, it is really you. Haven't you already? Haha, I'm not dead, and I'm now the commander-in-chief of our army. You must be busy with the war and don't have time to read the news about the energy circle, right? Anyway, are you feeling better? If so, please go over and help. On the front line, I will go to other fronts to help those comrades. Okay, Commander-in-Chief, please go about your business. The giant Mosquito entered the subspace again, making this primary being of the galaxy think that what happened just now was just a dream. But the corpses of the two enemies were still floating in space. He knew that the previous scene was definitely not a dream. This, Jia Yan has actually returned to the Zerg Queen's force, and his strength has successfully reached the peak of the intermediate galaxy. By the way, let me check the news. The strong man at the beginning of the galaxy had not yet recovered his breath, so naturally he could not rush back to the battlefield to join the battle, so he took advantage of this opportunity to open the smart brain he carried with him and read the latest news. He actually challenged Master Black Sheep and even won a small victory. This is amazing. It seems that the situation of our Zerg Queen force will change in the future. Haha, you deserve it. Black Sheep doesn't care. We live or die, now let's see if you break through, someone must surpass you. It's just that Black Sheep is preparing to be promoted to the Territory Lord level after all. If he succeeds in being promoted, how will Jia Yan deal with himself? He must be forced to leave my influence again, so it's better to keep a certain distance from him. I can't help it, this is not disrespectful to my savior, it's just that the situation forces me, just remember his kindness in the future. This elementary creature of the galaxy is a smart person within the Zerg Queen's force. Otherwise, he would not have been able to operate the front line like a rock when the Black Sheep fell out of control. So he knew that showing gratitude to Jia Yan might lead to him being squeezed out by the successful Black Sheep in the future. Of course, if Black Sheep fails, then everything is easy to say. Now Jia Yan can beat Black Sheep. If he does not succeed in promotion, Jia Yan seems to have just been promoted to the top of Galaxy Intermediate level, and there will definitely be more in the future. If he makes progress, he will definitely surpass Black Sheep more and more in the future. In this case, taking refuge in Jia Yan must be a top priority, not to mention that he is also a lifesaver. It's just that it's hard to make a decision until everything becomes clear. Groan. Inside the subspace, Jia Yan didn't know that the powerful man at the beginning of the galaxy behind him thought so much in the short time he left. He only knew that he had completed a task. The two first-level galaxies of this Domain Master's force are indeed existences that have been baptized by the flames of war. The two first-level galaxies just now have much stronger reaction and combat capabilities than the first-level galaxies in the Peace Star territory. No wonder they all say that one galaxy novice from the outside can defeat 2 or even 3 galaxy novices in the Peace Star territory. Actual combat experience is too important. Jia Yan sighed, if the two primary creatures of the galaxy had not encountered his own level of strength, even a strong man of the middle level of the galaxy, as long as he used certain means, he would have escaped. Naturally, the strong ones on the side of the Zerg Queen are just as powerful, or even more powerful. Many battle fronts are similar to the situation where the Zerg Queen's power is 1 against 2 at the galactic level. In some places, the strong ones can even suppress 2 people. Fighting at the big galaxy level. Jia Yan didn't have much information about this. He could only rush to the battlefield and look at each place. If there was any tight front line like the previous galaxy novice, he could help the other party. Then he will go to the central theater of the entire war, where a commander-in-chief is needed to sit in the middle, and it is also the most intense place in the entire war. Now that there is no commander-in-chief, it is already crumbling. Boom. Thank you, Master Jia Yan. You're welcome. In the future, you will stabilize the territory and adopt a gradual retreat method. You must not collapse, otherwise military law will be at your service. Understood. Jia Yan solved another precarious front position. When he entered the subspace again, he felt an earth-shattering force flying towards this side. Humph, are you here? Jia Yan sneered and stopped flying away. Instead, he let the junior strongman of the galaxy who was rescued by him lead the army to retreat, because he was about to face the enemy. Jia Yan started from one end of the battle line and destroyed the formations of the armies of the 2 major domain lord forces along the way, turning several aspects that were about to win into losses. If the enemy had not made any move, he would be a fool. The coming beings are 2 peak mid-level galaxies. If it were the Black Sheep, they would definitely send 3 galaxy intermediate peaks, but the intelligence showed that the people coming here were not the Black Sheep, and because of the strength within the Zerg Queen's forces regarding Jia Yan's return, they were carried out strict protection, so not only did they not know Jia Yan's strength, they didn't even know that the current commander-in-chief of the entire war had become Jia Yan. Of course, it is even less clear that Jia Yan narrowly defeated Black Sheep in the internal competition. Otherwise, they would definitely send at least 3 galaxy intermediate peaks to come, because Black Sheep enjoys such treatment, and even 3 galaxy intermediate peaks may not be able to drive them away. Yes. Watching the elementary creature from the galaxy leave quickly, Jia Yan's body gradually blurred, entering a mode that seemed to be half in subspace and half in the normal starry sky. This is the half-space ability that Jia Yan can master after his strength gradually increases. For him, the current battle situation really requires the use of such an ability. You too, since you are here, how about we come closer? Jia Yan sneered and said calmly to a place thousands of kilometers away in the starry sky. There were already 2 powerful men at the top of the middle level of the galaxy, looking at Jia Yan from a distance. It's you, you're actually alive. A middle-level galaxy peak existence looked at Jia Yan almost in disbelief. The other one had an ugly face and didn't speak. When Jia Yan saw these 2 creatures, the murderous intent in the giant mosquito's eyes turned into reality in an instant. He could recognize that these 2 mid-level peaks of the galaxy were the 2 sneak attackers who had driven him to near death that day. Probably after their last sneak attack, they never imagined that just 2 years later, Jia Yan not only did not die, nor did his strength stagnate, but he advanced by leaps and bounds, reaching the same level of strength as them, the peak of the galaxy intermediate level. Both of them looked ugly, because to them, this was simply unbelievable. Please remember the first domain name of this book. 4novel.com. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2144. Yes, you too, I'm still alive. In that case, there's no need to say anything more. Why don't we settle the accounts from 2 years ago? Jia Yan originally wanted to find trouble for his existence during this war, but now they came to his door. He didn't have anything to say, so he just went straight to the door. Of course, with the existence of the 2 middle-level peaks of the galaxy, let alone taking 2, they have no way to escape. In fact, this is impossible. Even if he only leaves one forever, if the other party insists on escaping, Jia Yan felt a little difficult under the circumstances. After all, the peak of the middle-level galaxy is the peak of the middle-level galaxy. This can be seen from the fact that since the war started, less than 5 fingers of the middle-level peak powerhouses of the galaxy have died, and this is still among the top mid-level powerhouses of the galaxy. The casualties that occur when the battle strength is not small at all. If the strong men at the top of the mid-level galaxy fight less often, the casualties will be greatly reduced. Humph, you want to settle accounts with us? Very good, then come and give it a try. The two powerful men at the top of the middle-level galaxy were originally here to support him, and they were already ready for a battle with Jia Yan. Then there's no need to say anything else. I'll show you the truth. Jia Yan smiled, not afraid of the two middle-level peaks of the galaxy, but charged towards them. You really dare to come here? You're looking for death. There were two middle-level peaks of the galaxy, their expressions changed slightly, and then they all became ferocious, waiting for Jia Yan's arrival. It is said that this battle was earth-shattering. The entire starry sky was distorted, and the approaching battleships and powerful men were directly torn to pieces. The earth-shattering battle probably lasted for more than half an hour. After more than half an hour, it was as if everything had never happened, and the sky returned to tranquility. As for the outcome of the battle, both sides were very secretive about it, and no one was willing to say anything. At least the strong men on both sides outside the war zone only knew that after the battle on both sides, there were no casualties on either side. Jia Yan didn't seem to be a bad person. He confessed a few words that he would be the commander-in-chief, and then continued to rush to the central theater. It's just that his face looks ugly. The faces of the two mid-level galaxies on the other side were even more ugly. After contacting the galactic levels on this front, they said that there would be a temporary truce. Even if the strong ones from the Zerg Queen's force came to attack, they could retreat. They were also very leave soon. In fact, both sides have reasons to be shameful. But the reason for this dark face is actually caused by being a little overconfident. Of course, in essence, Jia Yan won this battle, really won, because one of the two seemingly uninjured peak mid-level elites in the galaxy was seriously injured, and the other was also slightly injured. He himself just used a little too much power. The reason for Jia Yan's dark face was that he did not kill the two powerful men, and even overused his own power. In the end, he had to separate from the opponent and chose a default draw. The reason for the other party's shame is even simpler. It must be because the two top mid-level stars of the galaxy cannot defeat Jia Yan, who must have just been promoted. It must be extremely embarrassing to say this. In fact, they didn't know that Jia Yan had defeated Black Sheep. When word spread about it, they should be happy, because against Black Sheep, a combat sect from the Zerg Queen's force, they might be better than each other. It's even worse now. Of course, if Black Sheep confronts the two of them, it will be difficult to kill them unless a heavy price is paid. Jia Yan's face was very ugly. After this battle, his self-confidence suffered a certain blow, because he saw that his current promotion strength was actually compared to the Black Sheep, and it seemed that he was really fighting a life and death battle. It will be a little bit worse. Facing the two powerful men at the top of the middle level of the galaxy, he couldn't kill them, and he couldn't beat them to escape. This made Jia Yan unable to bear the limit of his heart. Buzz buzz. In the subspace, Jia Yan looked very ugly. While rushing towards the central area of the war, he kept thinking about where he fell short. Master, you don't have to be unhappy. In fact, you just have too high demands on yourself. Don't forget that you have just been promoted to the top of the intermediate galaxy. When your strength stabilizes, you will definitely become more powerful for the powerful. Editha flew beside him, feeling unsatisfied, and reminded Jia Yan aloud. That's right. I have just been promoted to the top of the intermediate galaxy. Black Sheep has been promoted for at least several decades. Jia Yan was startled, and then felt that Etisha was right. I was a little too hasty, especially before I was promoted. I was overconfident and expected my strength after promotion. I thought that after I broke through, I would be able to defeat the Black Sheep and kick all the mid-level peaks of the galaxy. Killing the Domain Lord is such a big deal. But if you think about it calmly and carefully, you will know that it is impossible. Galaxy-level beings have long understood that there is not much difference in talent, even if there are really only a few who are so talented that they would be the kind of fighting geniuses that would make heaven jealous, but Jia Yan is not. Or should be said, he actually is, because he has already done it, and at the same level, he has almost no opponents. But within the same level, those with advanced cultivation can only be equal to each other, and even if they encounter powerful ones, they may not be able to beat them. Therefore, there is no need to brag about his fighting ability, nor to be arrogant, because no matter how you imagine it, Jia Yan is still Jia Yan, and it is not good to think too much. That's right, I just broke through, and I was able to defeat the Black Sheep who was almost attacking the Territory Lord in a duel, and I also drew or narrowly defeated the two top mid-level veterans of the galaxy. Isn't this enough bragging rights? Jia Yan came to understand clearly. He knew that even if his combat power was slightly inferior to that of Black Sheep in actual combat, it was not much different. At least Black Sheep needed to be driven away by the strong men at the top of the middle level of the three galaxies before he would be driven out. On a battlefield, he also needs three people. The only difference is that Black Sheep could seriously injure both the top mid-level players of the two galaxies when he fought against them, while he was just a hair away. This also depends on the problem of conflicting attributes and what kind of strong person they encounter. Maybe Black Sheep may not be able to defeat the two just now. There are too many variables, so this small gap cannot actually be counted. Well, overall, this battle has made me calm down my slightly wandering mind and understand myself more clearly. At least Jia Yan will no longer have the crazy dream of killing enemies across levels and trying to fight with the Domain Lord's creatures. If there is no today's battle, maybe next time he meets the Domain Lord, he will rush forward with a rush. Then you really have only yourself to blame for being stupid. So looking back, I realized that such a battle was indeed quite valuable. I think I was lucky. Not long after, Jia Yan, who recognized himself again, finally arrived at his destination. The center of the battle between the two armies is also the bloodiest battlefield, the central battlefield. This central battlefield was the place where the Zerg Queen's force first arrived when it first arrived. It was also the border line between the two forces. From here, the Zerg Queen's force began to encroach on the territory of the two major forces, and then gradually moved his own capital, so the junction of these three forces has become the most important battlefield today. Haha, people from the Zerg Queen's forces, you can't escape today. What kind of queen force? Look, how can you find a queen in your force now? The last time we saw your queen was in a battle more than a year ago. If she really wants to join the war, she can definitely fight anytime and anywhere. Why not come? Aren't you looking down on the lives of you weaklings? That's right, why not surrender to our forces? If you surrender, maybe you will become good partners in the future. Surrender, your power is much weaker than ours. What's the benefit of being a gangster? Surrender to our arms, and that's how you become a regular army. A large group of powerful men from the two major forces were fighting outside the battle line, and they were saying many heartwarming words. But the Zerg Queen's force is as solid as a rock. No strong person will go out to surrender. Of course, even if you want to surrender, you have to do it secretly. At least in front of so many strong people from the Zerg Queen's force, you can show off your brains. Only then will he walk out in front of everyone. In that case, it is estimated that before reaching the camps of the two major forces, they will be attacked by the crowd of the Zerg Queen and beaten to a pulp. In fact, it is very difficult to win over those who surrender based on the enemy's words. After all, everyone is strong. Once a decision has been made, it is generally not so easy to be shaken. What's more, the current Zerg Queen's power is not what they say. It was so unbearable, otherwise they wouldn't have spent such a high price to attack. The only use is to attack the mind. After all, the current situation on the central battlefield is indeed a bit worrying. There are two strong men at the top of the mid-level galaxy in this battlefield. They are also the three top mid-level giants in the entire Zerg Queen's force, except for the other two from Black Sheep. The two of them were very lonely, because the enemy was stationed in this central battlefield alone, and there were 6 top mid-level powerhouses in the galaxy. This is not all the peak mid-level galactic powerhouses of the two major domain lord forces. The total number of mid-level peak mid-level galactic powerhouses they have is at least 20. But after all, the two major forces are too big and are enemies in every aspect, so excluding those who defend and those who go to other battlefields for support, within this central war zone, they can only sit at the top of the 6 mid-level galaxies. Moreover, these 6 majors often have to change their personnel. For example, if there are battles in other battlefields, we have to rush over to support. In addition, although the 2 mid-level peaks of the Zerg Queen's power are still a little behind the Black Sheep, they still require 2 mid-level peaks of the galaxies to confront them, and require 3 mid-level peaks of the galaxies to defeat them. So it seems that there is a huge gap between the two top-level experts, but the actual gap is not as big as imagined. Of course, this is big enough. In addition, the number of ordinary junior and middle-level powerhouses in the galaxy is almost as big, so the Zerg Queen's power is almost suppressed miserably. The day before yesterday, they actually used 3 soldiers to fight against me. If the situation on this battlefield hadn't been complicated, I would have had to peel off my skin to escape. It's that Black Sheep. Why should he practice training? If he doesn't come to fight against the enemy with us, with him, we will probably not be under such great pressure. The strong men at the top of the 2 middle-level galaxies are currently within the enemy's formation, but they have been holding back. After all, similar formations and fights happen every day. To them, it is just like a daily routine. The war has been going on until now, and everyone knows the situation. Those are the people from the Zerg Queen's force, who are ready to run for their lives. Of course, it is not correct to say that they are running for their lives. They are the forces of this kind of phalanx. They grab a handful and run away. If they really want to fight, it is not without the strength to resist, and it is even easy. As a result, the 2 major domain lord forces were ruined. The enemy also knows the current situation of the Zerg Queen's forces, so they desperately want to put pressure on them. Even if they don't recover all the losses, they have to try their best to peel off the Zerg Queen's forces, right? The mid-level strong men in the galaxy are currently the most dangerous. Originally, at their level, the danger was not that great, because in every force, the mid-level strong men in the galaxy are very precious existences. In the previous battles, no matter how hard they were, if he doesn't want to provoke extremely ferocious revenge, he won't touch the life of a mid-level powerhouse in the galaxy. But things are different now. The enemy wants to kill as much as possible the powerful people below the middle level of the galaxy who are under the influence of the Zerg Queen. In the past few days, 2 of the mid-level warriors from the galaxy who were not guaranteed to die in half a year have died at once. This is a huge blow to the warriors of the Zerg Queen's force, and their morale has been reduced a lot. As for the strong men below the middle level of galaxy, they are killed more casually. Even those at the beginning level of galaxy have been killed recently. About a dozen people from the Zerg Queen's force have died. The enemy's army is even worse, about more than 30 people died, which was almost worth the losses in the days when the war just started. But in this chaos, there is only one level that is not afraid of death and injury. It's definitely not the territory lord level. The territory lord is the overlord in this war. No matter how hard we fight, it's hard to kill or injure them. What's more, a territory lord war has already broken out before. The Zerg Queen used the wounds of 2 territory lords to inflict. They taught a lesson, and the Zerg Queen herself also knew that if the other party joined forces, she would be the one killed or injured, so no matter how they fought now, the territory lord would not move lightly. Excluding the territory lord, the only ones who are not afraid of death and injury are the galaxy intermediate peak powerhouses below the territory lord. Although there were casualties in the past for such powerful beings, over the past few years, the number of casualties was only 5 fingers, and they were all from the enemy, because the Queen of the Zerg treated 3 subordinates at the top of the mid-level galaxy as her own. The most important resources of the country, every one of them could be promoted to territory lord, and the death of any one of them would be enough for her to go crazy once. The enemy is similar. The 5 mid-level peaks of the galaxy that were killed or injured were also the trigger of the previous Domain Lord War. After those 2 Domain Lord battles, they did not lose a single mid-level peak of the galaxy, because the Zerg the Queen also knows that this is also the other party's limit. Please remember the first domain name of this book. 4novel.com